Chapter 2475. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. I wonder what the test will be this time. Last time, I needed to refine at least 3 types of pills for 10 types of spirit herbs. This time, there are hundreds of spirit herbs, so it will definitely be harder than last time. Hee, no matter how difficult it is, the winner will definitely be God Yi. As he spoke, Lil Tian's voice rang out, instantly drowning out all the noise and entering everyone's ears. The second round of the alchemy competition has officially begun. All patients and doctors, please get into position. As soon as he finished speaking, the tower in the center of the reincarnation square disappeared again. In its place was a huge platform. However, the platform was divided into 10 independent spaces. In each space, there was a person lying on a bed with a sickly expression. Doctors stood beside the patients. After a moment of silence, shouts immediately rang out in the square. Damn, Dr. Huang, that's a famous doctor in the Ziyun world. Dr. Liang is the publicly acknowledged national master of the Lan family empire. He actually came as well. What is this competition about? Could it be? Someone had already roughly guessed what was going on. Lil Tian's emotionless voice sounded again. I will now announce the rules for the second round of the elixir competition. Firstly, there would be 5 alchemists, 1 patient and 1 doctor. The top 10 alchemists on the pill competitions for rankings would be decided by the votes of all the users on the Reincarnation Plaza. The rest of the alchemists will be randomly selected by drawing lots. Second, after the match was completed, the doctor would diagnose the patient's illness and inform the participating alchemists of the patient's illness in detail. The alchemists would then refine the elixir on the spot according to the patient's condition. Thirdly, if the patient's illness was caused by multiple concurrent cases, and the more patients' illnesses were cured by the pill, the higher the score would be. The final ranking was based on the patient's physical condition. The time limit for voting is 15 minutes. Almost as soon as Little Tian's voice fell, everyone in the rebirth square in the 3 districts heard Little Tian's prompt. Each person could only choose a doctor for 1 alchemist. Hearing this rule, Liang Chendajuan was simply wild with joy. In the second round of the alchemy competition, the strength of the alchemists is not the most important. The most important thing is the strength of the doctors. Yes. This is also why everyone says that the accumulation of popularity before the alchemy competition is very important. Most of the people in Reincarnation Square are now supporters of our Almighty Yi. That's great, Almighty Yi will definitely win easily. Now is the time for us, the Liangchen army, to contribute to God Yi. Which doctor should we choose? Is there even a need to ask? It's naturally the national physician of our Lan Empire, Dr. Liang. Everyone in Liang Chen's army rubbed their palms together eagerly. They wanted to choose the best doctor for their idol. In the corner, Lu Yu saw this scene as he expected, and the corners of his mouth curled into a strange smile. 15 minutes passed quickly, and the alchemist, doctor, and patient were quickly matched. The doctors and patients on the stage slowly disappeared. At the same time, the small room of the participating alchemists also changed. The rooms of the apothecary who drew the same doctor and patient merged together. The originally small room turned into a ring-shaped palace. It protected the doctor and the patient. In the space that was supposed to be sealed off, there were noises coming from the Reincarnation Square. Great God Yi will win. Victory! Victory! Great God Yi, Dr. Liang is the national physician of the Lan Empire, and his medical skills are incomparably superb. He'll surely be able to wish you victory. Chapter 2476. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Mu Yan looked at the middle-aged man and the patient who appeared in the center of the palace, and her face revealed an incomparably gentle smile. This middle-aged man was one of the best doctors in the Lan Empire. He was respectfully called the nation's divine hand. even Mu Yan had heard of the name Dr. Liang. In this competition, everyone could see how important a doctor was to the victory or defeat of the competition. And sending this nation's divine hand, Dr. Liang, in front of her, hoping to help her, was the most precious support and intention of Liang Chen's army. Compared to Mu Yan's gentle smile, the other alchemists were wild with joy. They didn't expect that their originally low ranking would be so lucky to be in the same group as Great God Yi. Now that Dr. Liang was diagnosing the patient's condition, the probability of them concocting the right medicine had increased by more than a little. The words, "competition begins." The hazy mist that originally shrouded the patient's body dissipated. Dr. Liang immediately turned around and probed the patient's body with his divine sense. After probing with his divine sense, he didn't immediately come to a conclusion. Instead, he held the patient's hand and felt his pulse, then checked his pupils and tongue. Even if he didn't check the patient's internal condition, just by looking at his appearance, he was already terminally ill and in dire straits. All the blue veins on his body were slightly bulging, appearing dark brown. There were also ulcers and pustules in some of the intersections of the meridians. His body twitched from time to time, his eyes turned white, and vomit spilled from his lips. His body was also emitting an unbearable stench. However, Dr. Liang seemed to be completely unaware of this. His expression didn't even change as he bent down, unbuttoned the patient's clothes, and checked every inch of his body to see if there were any meridians. Even ignoring the pustules on his chest, he stuck to his heart and listened to it. This kind of diagnosis lasted for more than an hour. The second round of the competition was even shorter than the first round, only 4 hours. The alchemists in the room were obviously anxious. Because for those special elixirs, even if they only refined one furnace, it would take at least an hour. And if the patient had different diseases, one furnace of elixirs might not be enough. If this went on, they would be too late. In particular, they could hear the shouts of the people in the reincarnation square from time to time. "Look, Dr. Huang has finished his diagnosis. Master Su Qingling has started refining. Jun Qingwan's side has also started to refine pills. Why hasn't Dr. Liang finished his diagnosis yet? Any later and it would be too late for Great God Yi to refine pills. Is it really right for us to choose Dr. Liang?" The alchemists in the same group as Mu Yan are all sweating profusely. Only Mu Yan's expression was incomparably calm. From beginning to end, her gaze did not land on Dr. Liang, but directly on the patient. When the time was about to pass, 2 hours passed. Dr. Liang finally raised his head and said with an indifferent expression, "All right, I'm done with my diagnosis. You can start refining the pill." The spirit of the alchemists below was shaken as they waited for him to tell them about his illness. However, Dr. Liang said, "This patient's condition is too complicated. Even if I tell you the condition, you won't know how to refine pills. Now, I'll name a type of spirit herb, and you can take one, and then refine it into a medicinal pill according to the proportion I've specified." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the square and palace was dumbfounded. Holy shit! You can even do this? Oh my god, I was just blaming Dr. Liang for being too slow. Only now do I know what a true master is. Chapter 2477. There was only a quarter of an hour left until the end of the second round. The other alchemists in the assessment space had already left and returned to the reincarnation square. Only Mu Yan's group, because Dr. Liang's diagnosis time was too long, was still continuing. But at this moment, it was already nearing the end. After Dr. Liang reported dozens of elixirs and explained the processing method, he finally let out a breath slowly. "All right, you guys can start refining the elixirs. As long as it's not too shabby, saving this person's life won't be a problem." The few alchemists were overjoyed and immediately increased the output of the spiritual fire in their bodies. However, right at this moment, Dr. Liang's face suddenly sank, and he said with displeasure, "What are you doing? Didn't I already say that I had enough elixirs? Who allowed you to continue to Riga? This stern shout makes everyone's line of sight focus on Mu Yan. However, Mu Yan's expression was calm. His movements were quick, and he carefully took down 3 types of spirit medicines from the medicine rack. He used the water and wood's spiritual power in his body to carefully deal with it. Then, he placed it into the alchemy furnace. Dr. Liang was furious. "Didn't you hear me talking to you?" Mu Yan's hands didn't stop moving. She raised her head to look at the person in front of her and said with a smile, "Dr. Liang, your duty is to diagnose the patient and give the cause of the illness, not to refine pills. How to diagnose the illness and what solution to give is the doctor's job. But how to refine the pill and make the pill more effective is the job of the alchemist. Am I right?" The veins on Dr. Liang's forehead throbbed violently. There was obvious anger in his eyes. As the Lan clan empire's divine hand of the nation, he'd never suffered such contempt. Good, you're just a silly little girl. This old man wants to see just how you're going to use your own alchemy to cure this patient who already has 1 foot in the Yellow Springs. Mu Yan smiles faintly, ignoring the furious Dr. Liang. He continued to use his Dan fire to melt the spirit herbs that he had just placed into the cauldron and fuse them with the other spirit herbs. Mu Yan's gaze sweeps over the alchemy furnace at the bottom, which is already faintly glowing red, and he helplessly rubs his nose. She should be thankful that Tianguang Ruins had provided a 9th-grade pill furnace for the second round of the competition. Moreover, it was a superior alchemy furnace among the 9 grades. However, in order to treat the patient, she had secretly engraved a subarray of the mind's eye on the alchemy furnace. From the looks of it, even this superior 9th-grade alchemy furnace could not hold on any longer. The other 4 alchemists witnessed the scene of Dr. Liang and Mu Yan quarreling. All of them shook their heads and chose to believe in Dr. Liang without any hesitation. He thought that Yap Liangchen was really looking for trouble. If Zhang Xian had concocted the pill according to physician Liang's instructions, he would have been able to clinch the first place. She just had to do something superfluous. Did she have nothing better to do? The people in the reincarnation square had the same idea. Is God Yi out of his mind? Why didn't you follow Dr. Liang's instructions to refine pills? Maybe God Yi has his own ideas. Bah, what do you mean by your own thoughts? Is she a doctor? Know how to diagnose phagocytosis? Love? I see that Yap Liangchen thinks he's so great just because people call him Great God. Ha ha ha, what kind of God is that? Does she know that the number of patients Dr. Liang has treated is more than the number of meals she has eaten? Hearing the ridicule of the people around her, Ling Qingwan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Chapter 2478. They didn't expect that they hadn't used their backup plan yet. Yi Liangchen, the bastard, couldn't wait to die. After offending Dr. Liang, he was ridiculed for overestimating his own capabilities. In the end, he was ruthlessly slapped in the face and lost his reputation. Ha, this result was 100 times better than letting this bitch only lose the competition. 15 minutes passed in the blink of an eye, and the second round of the competition came to an end. The 4 alchemists in the same group as Mu Yan had already finished refining the pills and returned to the reincarnation square. In the entire palace, there's only Mu Yan, who's concentrating on alchemy, and Dr. Liang, who's coldly watching her from the side. Buzz! Ka ka ka! The pill furnace emitted a violent vibration, and at the same time, the bottom of the furnace emitted the sound of metal cracking. But it didn't explode in the end. Mayan let out a long sigh of relief and promptly opened the furnace. She took out the only pill inside and fed it to the delirious patient. Almost at the same time, little Tian's voice sounded in everyone's mind. The second round of the competition has ended. We will now show the results of the patients taking the pills. As soon as her voice falls, Mayan has already returned to the reincarnation square. 50 light screens appeared on the high platform in the reincarnation square. On the screen was the patient who had taken the pill. Lines of text appeared on the right side of the screen, clearly showing the changes in the patient's condition and the final physical state after taking the pill. Little Tian's voice continued. The first to complete the competition is Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan. Dr. Huang's diagnosis was that the upper body was poisoned by fire poison and the lower body was poisoned by cold poison. His dantian was slightly damaged. The fire poison caused sores in his mouth and tongue, dryness in his 5 viscera, excessive consumption of spiritual energy, and a sharp reduction in lifespan. The cold poison caused the meridians in his legs to be blocked, making it difficult for him to move. The pill concocted by Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan repaired the patient's damaged dantian. At the same time, it removed the cold and fire toxins and even restored the patient's cultivation. Therefore, Immortal Fairy Jun Qingwan's final score was 95 points. As soon as this result was announced, the reincarnation square erupted again. Ling Qingwan, who was previously ridiculed and looked ugly, suddenly became an existence that everyone revered. What kind of skill is refining basic elixirs? Can you save people like our Immortal Fairy Qingwan? 95 points means that the dying patient has not only recovered, but has also become better than before. My goodness! This Immortal Fairy Qingwan is too powerful. Ling Qingwan lowered her eyebrows, hiding the complacency in her eyes. The elixir she refined was called Ice Fire Elixir. It was a kind of elixir that specialized in treating fire and cold poisons. And this patient's illness seemed to be tailor-made for the ice and fire pill. Wasn't it natural for her to get first place? Sure enough, the results were announced next. Whether it was in the same group as Ling Qingwan, Su Qingling or by Ziliang, their final scores were not as good as Ling Qingwan's. The patient that Su Qingling healed was evaluated by Tianguang Su to be 93 points. It was only 2 points lower than Ling Qingwan. On the other hand, Ling Qingwan's supporters seemed to have finally found something to use against Su Qingling. They could take revenge for the first round, and they started to ridicule and humiliate Su Qingling. This made Su Qingling's supporters gnash their teeth in hatred. Very quickly, the results of the top 45 alchemists were announced. But when it came to the last 5 alchemists' turn, Little Tian's voice stopped. The reason was very simple. It took time for the pill to take effect. The other alchemists had already finished refining the pills an hour ago and fed them to the patients. The patient's condition could be roughly seen at a glance. Chapter 2479. As for Mayan's group, the patients had just taken the elixir not too long ago, so the effects of the elixir had yet to fully take effect. These 10 patients were all real. But their reactions and changes after taking the elixir were only a simulation made by Tianguang Su. Therefore, on the screen at this time, it was the same patient's body that had different reactions after taking different elixirs. Of course, the effects of these elixirs would not affect the patient's real body. Time went by bit by bit. Soon, the body of the first patient on the screen began to change. The dark brown meridians that were originally all over the body began to slowly fade. The body stopped convulsing, and even the disgusting abscesses on the surface of the body healed bit by bit. He's cured. He's really cured. Truly worthy of being Dr. Liang. This patient's condition is clearly much more serious than the previous ones. If it wasn't for Dr. Liang, how could he have been cured? This group of alchemists really hit the jackpot, to actually be in the same group as Dr. Liang. Master Qi and the others knew their place and knew their limits, so naturally they would get good results. Some people who like to think they're smart might not necessarily be the same. As soon as this person's mocking voice fell, there was a cry of alarm in the square. Ah, look, the patient that great God Yi is treating isn't doing well. Everyone looked over, and saw that the patient who was originally lying on the bed in a convulsing coma suddenly sat up, and vomited again and again. The things he vomited out were basins full of black water, and there were even rotting internal organs mixed in it. And what was even more frightening was that the abscesses on the patient's body did not get better, but instead burst with popping sounds. Thick, nauseating yellow water kept gushing out from the sores. Cultivators lived in this world where the strong preyed on the weak. Most of them were used to seeing tragic and bloody scenes. But seeing this scene, they still couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts, and frowned. This patient was already miserable enough, but now it was even more miserable. On the other side of the high platform, the doctors did not leave. Seeing this scene, they all shook their heads. TSK, if it was like this little girl messing around, this patient would have already breathed his last. Yeah, look at him. His internal organs are obviously damaged, and all the meridians in his body have been corroded and severed. Even a god wouldn't be able to save him. Fortunately, this is only a simulation in Tianguang ruins. If a patient were to consume this kind of elixir in reality, wouldn't that be harming their lives? After condemning Mu Yan, these doctors smile and compliment Dr. Liang. Dr. Liang's medical skills are truly superb. This patient's illness is obviously beyond cure. We thought about it again and again, and we only felt that it was impossible to use pills to save him. I didn't expect that Dr. Liang would even think of a pill refining plan for them. Hearing the compliments from the surrounding doctors, Dr. Liang's expression didn't change and he only snorted coldly. There's nothing wrong with the phrase, quack doctors mislead people. You look down on doctors just because you know how to refine some pills. You think you're invincible. Such a fool doesn't have the qualifications to treat patients. Dr. Liang's words were neither loud nor soft, but it was loud enough for most of the people in the reincarnation square to hear. For a moment, the mocking and cursing of Yap Liangchen were unbearable to the ears. Liangchen's army was so angry that their faces turned purple. Their bodies trembled, but they endured it and did not say anything. Some people couldn't help but want to curse back, but they were all pulled back. Chapter 2480. You've forgotten the iron rule of Liangchen's army. We can't make meaningless quarrels with others just because we have more people, so that outsiders won't think that we're bullying others. Our Liangchen's army has quality. Moreover, do they really think that great god Ye's face is that easy to slap? Leng Qingwan slowly walks to Mayan's side and whispers mockingly in her ear, "How does it feel to be condemned by thousands of people?" Mayan raises her head and looks at her coldly. Leng Qingwan thinks that her expression is anger from embarrassment, and the smile on her face becomes more carefree. "Yi Liangchen, a mortal waste like you doesn't even have the qualifications to compete with me. Obediently submit to me and hand over the Medicine King's inheritance, and I might let you live. But who told you to not know what's good for you and insist on competing with me?" Leng Qingwan's smile becomes distorted when she thinks of the humiliation of being trampled on by Yi Liangchen these days. "Do you think that losing the second round of the pill competition is the end? He, you're wrong, this is just the beginning. Very soon, I'll make you lose all standing and reputation, and lose everything. At that time, I'll still be Jun Mayan, and I'll still get the Medicine King's inheritance, while you're just a street rat that everyone wants to beat up, ha ha ha." Mayan waits for her to stop laughing, then slowly says, "That patient, did you specially arrange it?" Leng Qingwan's laughter stops abruptly, and she stares at the girl in front of her in shock. The corner of Mayan's mouth slowly hooks up, 10 kinds of extremely terrifying symptoms of illness, just to cover up the cause of death. "Jun Qingwan, it's not easy to find such a patient and arrange for him to participate in the pill competition, right?" Leng Qingwan's face turns green and white. After a while, she forces herself to calm down and says, I don't know what you're talking about." She quickly turns around and leaves. Compared to her high spirits earlier, her mind is in a mess now. What does Yi Liangchen mean? 10 kinds of symptoms, just to cover up the cause of death. She really knows, or is it just a wild guess? No. She must be talking nonsense just to scare herself. Yi Liangchen is an alchemist, how would he know how to diagnose illness? Whether it was in the Immortal Cultivation Continent or the Immortal Cultivation Continent, doctors and alchemists had always been completely different, but they also complemented each other. Since ancient times, it was not that there had never been someone who cultivated both medicine and alchemy, but that was only after many years of immersion. Otherwise, they would only be biting off more than they could chew. This Yi Liangchen in front of her looked to be in his 20s, but his skill in alchemy was something that even Ling Qingwan had to pinch her nose and acknowledge. How could such a powerful alchemist, the top ranker of the Coiling Dragon Board, know medicine? Ling Qingwan looked at the screen and saw that the patient who swallowed Yi Liangchen's pill was now covered in filthy and smelly blood. After a long time, he didn't move at all, as if he was dead. Only then did she feel relieved. Ha, that's right. Yap was just bluffing. In fact, let alone saving the patient, Yap Liangchen couldn't even find 10 signs and solve them like Dr. Liang did. Right at this moment, another wave of commotion surged out from the rebirth square. What's going on? The patient Master Qi was treating seemed to be in great pain. He fell down. Look. The patient Master Ouyang was treating is also dying. Chapter 2481. Holy shit, what the hell is going on? Xiao Tian, participating alchemists Qi Hongwen, Zhang Rini, Wang Zongliang, and Li Xin died while treating a patient. Their scores are 0 and they are eliminated immediately. On the stage, Dr. Liang abruptly stood up and said in disbelief, "This is impossible." Even the alchemists felt as if they had been struck by lightning, all of them in disbelief. The people in the reincarnation square were also stunned. What's going on? Didn't those patients start to recover? Why did he suddenly die? Didn't they say that Dr. Liang's diagnosis will never be wrong? Seeing that the 4 alchemists in the same group as Mu Yen have 0 points, Ling Qingwan goes back to devouring again. He felt a little more at ease. This was her original plan. Yi Liangchen was eliminated in the second round of the audition because he had treated a patient to death. Previously, Lu Yu had secretly told her that they had bribed the steward of the Tianguang Ruins Appraiser Treasure Pavilion to know the content and rules of the second round of the audition. After that, he followed the clues and found the patient with the most serious condition and did something to him. His actions were so secretive that even Tianguang Ruins couldn't detect any problems. At that time, Yi Liangchen had already become the champion of the pill competition's 4 rankings. Lu Yu knew that Yi Liangchen's army would definitely match the most powerful national physician, Dr. Liang, with Yi Liangchen. For the sake of fairness, the patient diagnosed by Dr. Liang was definitely the one with the most serious illness. Sure enough, everything was as they had expected. When Yi Liangchen's army was celebrating the fact that they had chosen the best doctor for their idol, Ling Qingwan was laughing at Yi Liangchen's death. It didn't matter whether the cause of the patient's death was Dr. Liang's poor diagnosis or Yi Liangchen's failure in alchemy. A loss was a loss. After all, luck was also a kind of strength. After that, Yi Liangchen's actions pushed him into the eye of the storm and he was ridiculed by thousands of people. In the end, she felt even better than she had expected. Ling Qingwan took a deep breath, and the corners of her mouth slowly blossomed into a complacent smile. That's right, no one had discovered the cause of death. Because that thing was personally hers, just as this thought flashed through her mind, suddenly, an earth-shattering scream almost penetrated her eardrums. Ah, look, he's alive. He's alive. The one who screamed was a girl from Liang Chen's army. While everyone else was looking at the dead patients on the screen, only her eyes were staring at the last one without blinking. Yi Liangchen had never been defeated. He had never disappointed them. This time, she believed that it would be the same. A miracle had happened right before her eyes. The patient who was lying in a pool of blood, as if he had been dead for a long time, slowly got up. Everyone was startled by this cry and looked at the last light screen. Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. The patient, who was covered in pustules and vomiting blood and internal organs, wiped away the blood on his face in a daze, revealing a wrinkled but clean face. Bright and clean. The people in the reincarnation square suspected that they were hallucinating. How could his face be so clean? Just now, this person's face was densely packed with pustules, and thick yellow liquid was constantly flowing out. Even if the pus was cured, it should be full of scars, right? Why wasn't there a single trace left? Chapter 2482. Damn, I'm a little dizzy, let me clear my head. So now, the patient diagnosed and treated by Dr. Liang died, and the same patient, Ye Liangchen, used her own method to concoct pills and saved him? That, who can tell me? How do alchemists diagnose? Do they know how to treat patients? Did I have some misunderstanding about the profession of alchemist? He, I've been an alchemist for dozens of years, I'm starting to doubt my life. Damn. Could it be that Ye Liangchen's medical skills are better than Dr. Liang's? Someone immediately ridiculed, don't be happy too early, be careful of being slapped in the face later. Dr. Liang couldn't cure a patient, do you really think that your Ye Liangchen is a god? Maybe he'll die later. However, as soon as this person's voice fell, little Tian's voice was very timely. The 50th person to complete the competition is Ye Liangchen. Dr. Liang's diagnosis is none. Ye Liangchen concocted pills and cured the patient's illness. At the same time, the patient's body was cleared of impurities and his cultivation was improved. So Ye Liangchen's final score is 100 points. The whole place was dead silent. Everyone's expression was dazed. Even little Tian's following announcement could not be heard in their minds. Now, the first 2 rounds of the competition have ended. The ones who advanced to the second round are Ye Liangchen, Jun Qingwan, and Su Qingling. We respectfully invite the 3 of you to the Lan Family Empire's Cloud Phoenix Hall tomorrow morning for the final competition. The other 47 participating alchemists will be given different levels of rewards according to their ranking. Mu Yan smiled and gently turned the hidden void spirit ring on her finger. It's finally the finals. She also wanted to see with her own eyes what this woman who claimed to be Di Ming's fiancé and almost killed her several times is. I don't know if he will be unhappy that I killed an emperor's old lover. Thinking of this, she looked at Ling Qingwan with a faint smile. When she saw Ling Qingwan's twisted face and gritted teeth, the jealousy in her heart was slowly replaced by unbridled arrogance. Who cares if someone will be angry? She must kill this bullshit fairy who dared to pretend to be her. Right at this moment, the square that had been silent for a long time finally burst into an uproar. Ah, God Yi, I'm really kneeling before you. Is there no profession in this world that you don't know, and there's no ranking that you can't slaughter? What, ah? Look at how you're making a fuss out of nothing. You look like you've just joined Liang Chen's army. Calm down. These are the basic moves of Guru Yi. Sob, what kind of god am I worshipping? It's great to be able to join Liang Chen's army. Great God Yi, I love you for 10,000 years. Listening to the cheers of Liang Chen's army below, the corners of Mayan's mouth raised into a genuine smile. She had been working hard, wanting to climb higher. Apart from wanting to become stronger to protect the people around him, he also wanted to disappoint the people who supported him. Say, it would be great to join Liang Chen's army. I also want to say that it's great to have the support of your devourers. After informing little Tian about the leaked contents of the pill competition, Mu Yan plans to withdraw from Tianguang ruins. Wait a moment. Chapter 2483. Mu Yan turns around in astonishment and sees Dr. Liang walking towards her with a frown. He stares at Mu Yan for a long time, and only after a long while does he say, "What was wrong with this old man's diagnosis?" Just now, Dr. Liang thought about it for a long time, but he couldn't figure it out. He had clearly found the patient's 10 ailments, and he had even prescribed the right medicine for them. He even considered the conflict between the medicines used for the different diseases. Dr. Liang felt that even if he couldn't cure the patient, at least it wouldn't be a problem to save his life. But the result was, Mu Yan smiles lightly and says, "Dr. Liang, your diagnosis is correct. There are indeed 10 diseases on this patient, and the most serious one is that his dantian and meridians are corroded. Therefore, in terms of appearance, your diagnosis and the Dan prescription are not wrong. It's even more perfect than most of the Dan prescriptions created by the alchemists. Dr. Liang stares blankly. He didn't expect that he had just ridiculed and humiliated this little girl in public. Now that he has been ruthlessly slapped in the face, not only is this little girl not angry, she even says that his diagnosis is correct. Dr. Liang only feels that his cheeks are burning. But in the end, he is still devoured. He is even more obsessed with medicine, so he can't wait to ask, then why did the Dan prescription I gave not cure the patient, but let the patient die instead? The smile on Mu Yan's face slowly recedes. After a long while, she says in a low voice, because someone wanted me to lose, so they planted a devil goo in the patient's heart. The devil goo is invisible and traceless, colorless and odorless. Neither divine sense nor pulse reading can detect it. But once the Dan enters the body, the exhausted spiritual power is replenished, and the devil goo will grow rapidly, devouring the patient's heart with lightning speed. Dr. Liang inhales a breath of cold air. Devil goo? It's actually a devil goo, it's actually a devil goo. Oh, right, because there's a goo, you added those 3 medicines. Girl, you're really a genius. You didn't take the pulse, didn't look closely, just used your divine sense to know that there's a devil goo in his body. How can a genius like you go to alchemy? You should study medicine, girl, let me tell you. Mu Yan didn't expect that this seemingly serious and inflexible Dr. Liang was actually a chatterbox. Once they had resolved their differences, he would capture her and force her to give up on alchemy and become a doctor. She was so frightened that she hurriedly left Tianguang ruins. Soon, the next day arrived. The finals of the alchemy competition had officially begun. At the same time, Di Ming had arrived in front of the mirror of heaven and earth and was about to enter it to head to the cultivation land. Di Ming, wait. Han Chujiu hurriedly came over and grabbed him. My apprentice's match has started. That shameless woman actually entered the finals with her. What if she bullies my disciple? Right now, immediately, go and support my precious disciple. Di Ming frowned and said coldly, I have something to do. When I'm free, naturally. No. By the time you have time, it will be too late. Han Chujiu stomped her feet in anger. Even the little bit of respect she had for Di Ming was thrown away. You must immediately go and support my apprentice, otherwise, I will not let you go. Let me tell you, in the future, don't expect me to provide you with medicinal pills from the polar domain. As he spoke, Star Wolf also hurried over. Chapter 2484. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small / say net, wonderful, no pop-up window free reading. Mu Yan turns around in astonishment and sees Dr. Liang walking to her with a frown. He stares at Mu Yan for a long time, and only after a long while does he say, what was wrong with this old man's diagnosis? Just now, Dr. Liang thought for a long time, but he couldn't figure it out. He had clearly found the patient's 10 ailments, and he had even prescribed the right medicine for them. He even considered the conflict between the medicines used for the different diseases. Dr. Liang felt that even if he couldn't cure the patient, at least it wouldn't be a problem to save his life. But the result was, Mu Yan smiles softly, Dr. Liang, your diagnosis is correct. There are indeed 10 diseases on this patient, and the most serious is that his dantian and meridians are corroded. Therefore, in terms of appearance, your diagnosis and the Dan prescription are not wrong. It's even more perfect than most of the Dan prescriptions created by master alchemists. Dr. Liang stares blankly. He didn't expect that he had just ridiculed and humiliated this little girl in public. Now that he has been ruthlessly slapped in the face, not only is this little girl not angry, she even says that his diagnosis is correct. Dr. Liang only feels that his cheeks are burning. But in the end, he is more obsessed with medicine, so he can't wait to ask, then why did my Dan prescription fail to cure the patient, and let the patient die instead? The smile on Mu Yan's face slowly recedes, and after a long while, she says in a low voice, because someone wanted me to lose, so they planted a devil goo in the patient's heart. The devil goo is invisible and traceless, colorless and odorless, and can't be detected by divine sense or pulse reading. But once the Dan enters the body, the exhausted spiritual power is replenished, and the devil goo will grow rapidly, devouring the patient's heart with lightning speed. Dr. Liang inhales a breath of cold air. Devil goo? It's actually a devil goo, so it's a devil goo. Oh, right, because there's a goo, you added those 3 medicines. Girl, you're really a genius. You didn't take the pulse, didn't look closely, just used your divine sense to know that there's a devil goo in his body. How can a genius like you go to alchemy? You should study medicine, girl, let me tell you. Mu Yan didn't expect that this seemingly serious and inflexible Dr. Liang would actually be a chatterbox. Once they had resolved their differences, he would capture her and force her to give up on alchemy and become a doctor. She was so frightened that she hurriedly left Tianguang ruins. Soon, the next day arrived. The finals of the alchemy competition had officially begun. At the same time, Di Mingju has already arrived in front of the Qiankuan mirror, about to enter and directly head to the Shozhen continent. Di Mingju, wait a moment. Han Chujiu hurriedly came over and grabbed him. My apprentice's match has started. That shameless woman actually entered the finals with her. What if she bullies my disciple? Right now, immediately, go and support my precious disciple. Di Mingju frowns, coldly saying, Ben Jun has matters to attend to. When I'm free, naturally. No. By the time you have time, it will be too late. Han Chujiu stomps her feet in anger. Even the little bit of respect she had for Di Mingju was thrown to Java. You must immediately go and support my apprentice, otherwise, I will not let you go. I'm telling you, in the future, don't expect me to provide you with Dan in the polar domain. As they were talking, Xing Lang also hurriedly arrived. Chapter 2485. Remember, in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, there is no pop-up window for free reading. Han Chujiu immediately points at him and says, You ungrateful wolf, do you still remember who saved your and Jun Shang's life? It's my baby disciple, okay? Right now, I'm just letting this kid Di Mingju support my baby disciple, not letting him marry my baby disciple. Is this making things difficult for him? You guys are ungrateful and shameless. Xing Lang's mouth twitches, but he can't speak for a while. Until now, he still remembers the regret and despair he felt when he was infected with pi poison and implicated Jun Shang. For Han Chujiu's disciple, his heart is full of gratitude. But Jun Shang's decision is unquestionable. Xing Lang can't help but turn his eyes to Di Mingju. Di Mingju's icy blue eyes look at Han Chujiu with impatience and coldness. Get out of the way. Han Chujiu firmly blocks the Qiankuan mirror. No, unless you promise to immediately support my disciple and slap that scumbag and cheap woman's face, I won't let you off. Di Mingju is finally helpless. All right, Ben Jun promises you. Isn't it just a moment later to see Mayan and that damn fiancé? Wait. Yes. On the day of the finals of the elixir competition, Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng arrive at Tianlang Palace early in the morning. Thinking of what happened in the past few days, both of them feel like they are in a dream. They originally thought that asking Mayan to make a move was nothing more than a last resort. They even made the decision to let Mayan secretly take away the chaotic tower, and then hand over the 6 Stars Tower to Longting Academy. They didn't expect that what they thought was impossible to do, someone actually did it. Moreover, it was far beyond their expectations. In the first stage of the elixir competition, the results are far ahead. The entire Tianguang ruins is now in the fear of being dominated by Yangchen. If you ask the people who are paying attention to the elixir competition at this moment, who do they think will win the championship? 90% of the people will resolutely tell you 3 words, Yangchen. So, can the century-old reputation of their Longting Academy, and the 6 Stars Tower, be preserved? Zhou Daoi's face shows a dazed and emotional smile. Their soaring dragon was really too lucky. To think that he would receive the protection of the emperor's fiancée. Wouldn't that mean that he had obtained the protection of the emperor? Compared to an imperial lord, a mere north-placating marquis, what was there for him to be afraid of? When Mu Yan arrived at the front hall, she saw the 2 deans of Longting Academy with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. She couldn't help but smile as she stepped forward and said, "Let's go." However, when Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongsheng turned around and saw her, they were shocked. You are Miss June." The woman standing in front of him still had the same face, and her eyes were still the same. However, her originally unparalleled beauty had fallen by several levels. At first glance, she doesn't look like June Mayan at all, but more like, the corner of Mu Yan's mouth curled up. She smiled faintly, "No, I'm Yap Liangchen. Hee, this is the masterpiece that 5th senior brother and I worked on for an entire morning. How is it? Awesome, right?" Luo Yu appeared out of nowhere and said with a smile, "Does my 6th senior sister look like Yap Liangchen now?" Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongsheng nodded repeatedly. Similar, indeed very similar. It's just that her makeup skills couldn't compare with Tianguang Ruin's appearance. Therefore, even if she deliberately dressed up in an ordinary and crude way, Mu Yan's appearance was still much more beautiful than Yap Liangchen in Tianguang Ruins. Chapter 2486. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. But even if there are differences, as long as people see Mu Yan now, they will feel that she is Yu Yangchen. Mu Yan originally planned to participate in the pill competition alone this time. But thinking of the Bei's soul pearl in Luoyu's body, she thought again and also brought him in disguise. However, before he left, another person joined in. "Miss, can I follow you to the Lan Empire's imperial palace?" Chu Tianyu bowed. Mu Yan raised her eyebrows, "Reason?" Chu Tianyu took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with a bone-chilling light. "The man beside Jun Qingwan is Chu Xinyan's confidant, Lu Yu. Back then, he coveted my mother." Mu Yan looked at him quietly for a while. Chu Tianyu clenched his fists. "Miss, I promise that I will not cause you trouble because of personal grievances." Mu Yan sneered, "This kind of trash can be called trouble? Alright, if you want to follow, then follow. But before you go in, ask 5th brother to help you change your appearance. You also know that your identity must not be exposed in front of the people of the North Marquis mansion. I hope you will remember this." Chu Tianyu looked happy and quickly said, "Miss, rest assured, this subordinate knows what to do." The Lan Empire's imperial palace was not so much a palace, but a huge imperial city. And the pill competition was held in the imperial city's largest and most luxurious Cloud Phoenix Hall. The 3 followed behind Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongsheng, entering the imperial city unimpeded. But flying is prohibited in the imperial city. As they walked, Mu Yan asked Luoyu in a low voice, "Shao Qi, after entering the imperial palace, is there anything strange about you? I heard from Lan Huaheng that the same kind of soul pearl can sense each other. The base in your body is not agitated at all?" Luoyu shook her head blankly, "I don't feel anything." There was something he didn't say. He always felt that there was a disdainful voice in the depths of his sea of consciousness. It seemed to be saying, "That kind of thing can be called base?" Cough, an illusion, it must be his illusion. The moment Mu Yan stepped into the Cloud Phoenix Hall, everyone's gazes gathered on her. Some were curious, some were respectful, some were excited, some were resentful and jealous, and they simply wished for nothing more than to burn holes in her body. Is this the famous Yangchen of Tianguang ruins? I've finally seen his true face today. God Yi. God Yi, I'm from the Southern Lands Tong family. I'm your loyal supporter. Ah. Yi Yangchen seemed to be much more beautiful than he was in Tianguang ruins. Could it be that she didn't improve her appearance after entering Tianguang ruins, but lowered it instead? Ha, you call this beautiful? Compared to immortal fairy Qingwan, she's simply an ugly freak. Listening to the noise around her, Mu Yan is a little amused. Why does it feel like I've returned to the reincarnation square in Tianguang ruins? She looked around and saw that the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall was decorated with gold and jade. Instead, it was filled with a graceful and ethereal aura. Around the Cloud Phoenix Hall, there were dozens of tables arranged in a ring shape. Fresh spirit fruits, delicacies, and wine were placed on the tables, and the entire hall was filled with a clear and refreshing fragrance. The people sitting on the tables were all dressed in luxurious clothes and had an extraordinary aura. Zhou Daoyi introduced them to Mu Yan softly. These people are the royal families and sects of the South, East, and East continents. Although they aren't the heads of the families, they are also the elite disciples of their clans who hold real power. Chapter 2487. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. In fact, the Eastern, Western, and Eastern lands attach great importance to every elixir competition. After all, for cultivators, whether they are nobles, generals, or poor rogue cultivators, elixirs are indispensable in the process of cultivation. It's also because of the importance attached to the champion of each elixir competition and pill competition that the finals are arranged in the Imperial Palace. The people present are roughly divided into 3 groups, with the Eastern, Southern, and Western lands as the boundary. Since the Eastern lands are the host, the Eastern lands naturally have the most people. Su family, Murong family, Nalan family, Shrouded Heaven Mansion. Almost all of these famous sects and families are here. There are also many acquaintances. For example, Su Zi, who had a cold expression before she came in, but after she appeared, he revealed a silly smile and kept waving at her. Mu Yan turns her head and doesn't look at him. This kid has grown a lot taller now. It might be because his heart disease was cured, and he no longer struggles on the edge of death, so the gloomy aura around him has dissipated a lot. It's fine if he doesn't have the clear and weak pretense he used to have, but why does he have a silly taste now? Seeing that Mu Yan doesn't pay attention to him, Su Zi runs over eagerly. June, as the words are on the tip of his tongue, he suddenly realizes something and immediately changes his words. Great God Yi, you're really amazing. Not only can you draw talismans and fight, you can even refine elixirs. You will definitely win this elixir competition. I'm Su Zi of the Su family. I've admired you for a long time, can I sit next to you? The youngster's eyes shine brightly. Mu Yan is shaken to the point that she wants to hold her forehead. She always feels that if the youngster had a furry tail behind him, he would be wagging happily right now. Moreover, young man, did you forget that your aunt also participated in the elixir competition and also entered the finals? Is it really good for you to run over and help your aunt's opponent win the championship? Cough. Your Su family's seat is over there. Mu Yan tactfully wants to refuse. However, Su Zi's expression immediately became so aggrieved that he looked like he was about to cry, and he even had an expression of accusation. His lips opened and closed soundlessly. Little missy, you didn't keep your word. You clearly said that you would take my body if you cured me. However, I waited for you in the purple cloud realm for so long, but you didn't come to find me even once. Mu Yan, cough, 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 you fucking spit it out for me. What do you mean I want your body? Qi Shao Huang, my illustrious reputation is about to be ruined by you. 7 brilliance, let him sit. Let him sit. It just so happens that I have been bored to death during this period of time. Once the competition is over, I will borrow his body to go out and have fun. Wild your sister. Bai Xia, get your ass back here. What have you taught my pure and innocent artifact spirit? Mayan coughs lightly, sit down. Hearing this, Su Zi's expression changed instantly, and he happily sat beside Mu Yan. Su Qingling, who was drinking nearby, shook her head, but she could not help but feel suspicious. Isn't the one that Zi always talks about little Jijia Jun Mayan? Why did he worship Yap Liangchen now? Just as Su Zi's buttocks sat down, a youngster with a sullen face ran over. He quickly occupied the seat next to Mu Yan. Mu Yan turned to look. She saw Lan Huahong, the little prince of the Lan family empire, revealing a bashful smile at her, and softly said, "Aunt, I also want to sit next to you, can I?" Chapter 2488. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Mayan. How could she say no? Luo Yu, who had been observing the Cloud Phoenix Hall and hadn't had time to sit down, turned his head and found that his seat was gone. Luo Yu's mouth twitched, and he was about to protest. Suddenly, a fragrant wind lingered at the tip of his nose. Then, his clothes tightened as someone gently pulled him forward. A smiling female voice rang in his ear, "Little handsome Luo Yu, it's been so long since we last met, did you miss this sister?" Luo Yu looked up, only to see a beautiful and tender face right in front of him. As always, there was a carefree and playful smile on his face. It was the young miss of the Murong family, and the only girl in the Qilin team, Murong Shui. But this time, Luo Yu didn't fly into a rage out of humiliation like before. Instead, he revealed a sincere smile. "Murong Shui, you've already recovered from your previous injuries?" Perhaps it was because the youth's smile was too clear and dazzling. Murong Shui's heart couldn't help but jump. His originally playful smile froze, and he loosened his hand that was hooking onto the youth's clothes. He coughed lightly and said, "The doctor who treated my injury is extremely skilled. When I woke up, my injury had almost healed." Luo Yu thought proudly, "My 6th senior sister treated you, how could her medical skills not be superb?" The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing 2 cute dimples on his cheeks. "I didn't see you at Longting Academy, so I thought you hadn't recovered from your injuries and were recuperating at home." For the past half a month, most of the Qilin team had gone out to train and hadn't returned. Only Zhu Chongguang hurriedly ran over and threw down a large stack of crystal notes. He happily bought a large pile of elixirs from Mayan and returned to the Zhu family of the southern land. From Zhu Chongguang, Luo Yu found out that Murong Shui had returned to the Murong family after being seriously injured by the assassins from the North Marquis residence with Chu Tianyu and Luo Yu. Hearing Luo Yu's words, Murong Shui's eyes darkened. However, it was only for a moment before she covered it up and chuckled, "Little Luo Yu, you're so concerned about Big Sister. Big Sister might misunderstand that you like me. I was just worried that I wouldn't have the chance to repay you with my body." "Luo Yu, Murong Shui, do you know who you are now? How dare you flirt with another man?" All of a sudden, a cold male voice cut in. Luo Yu turned her head to look and realized that it was someone she knew. Team Kirin's support back then, the former top of the Ganhua rankings, Shui Huailu. However, compared to a few months ago, the spiritual energy in Shui Huailu's body was incredibly thin. It was clear that he had nearly been crippled in the chaotic tower. Moreover, right now, his entire body was emitting a very uncomfortable feeling of malice and ruthlessness. Luo Yu frowned the moment she saw him. "Shui Huailu, who are you yelling at?" Shui Huailu glared at him with intense killing intent and jealousy in his eyes. But very quickly, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a sinister smile. "I'm disciplining my fiancé, what does that have to do with you?" "Lan Luoyu, you are so close to my fiancé. Are you trying to seduce a married woman?" Luo Yu was stunned and instinctively looked at Murong Shui, "Fiancé?" He had no romantic feelings for Murong Shui, but he treated this handsome and carefree woman as a friend in times of adversity. He could not believe that Murong Shui would agree to marry Shui Huailu. However, this time, Murong Shui did not refute Shui Huailu's toad lusting after swan meat like before. Instead, she turned around and left quickly with a cold face. Chapter 2489. Murong Shui, stop right there. Shui Huailu roared. Did you hear what I just said? You're about to become a daughter-in-law of the Shui family. Don't you understand the basic rules of etiquette, righteousness, and honor? Are you going to embarrass both our families when you marry into the Shui family? Murong Shui turned around abruptly. Her cold gaze cut into Shui Huailu's face like a sharp sword. The pressure of a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core realm was suddenly released. Shui Huailu's face paled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with rage. Slut! How dare you! Murong Shui, don't forget that the Murong family begged for this marriage on their knees. A slut like you who goes around seducing men, do you really think I care about you? Murong Shui laughed eerily and walked towards Shui Huailu, the killing intent in her eyes unconcealed. However, before she could get close to Shui Huailu, someone grabbed her back. Ah, Shui, you can't. The person holding Murong Shui back was a middle-aged woman. Her cultivation was extremely high, at least in the advanced leaving aperture realm. She seemed to be Murong Shui's elder. However, she looked extremely haggard. She looked at Murong Shui with a pleading look in her eyes. Ah, Shui, you know the current situation. Bear with it. Murong Shui clenched her fists tightly. However, she didn't say anything in the face of the middle-aged woman's pleading look. She turned around and left. The fear on Shui Huailu's face turned into pride and arrogance. He didn't care what kind of situation he was in as he yelled, Murong Shui, I don't want you to behave like this a second time. Otherwise, don't blame me for punishing you after we get married. Luo Yu frowned as she watched Murong Shui leave. It wasn't Murong Shui's personality to swallow her anger like this. Not to mention, Shui Huailu's cultivation had dropped by more than half. He was no different from a cripple. What was Murong Shui afraid of? Shui Huailu met Luo Yu's gaze. The smile on his face turned savage. Brat, do you think you can seduce the young miss of a noble family with that pretty face of yours? Ha ha ha, unfortunately, Murong Shui will soon become my woman. When she becomes the wife of the Shui family, I can teach her any lesson I want. When that time comes, I will definitely let her know the consequences of fooling around outside and not being a woman. Luo Yu sneered, you're just a half-crippled toad. You don't even have the right to eat insects and ants, yet you want to eat swan meat? Are you thinking too much? The arrogant smile on Shui Huailu's face twisted. Little bastard, just you wait. One day, I'll make you. Before he could finish speaking, a clear and moving voice that was like the sounds of nature slowly resounded. What do you want my junior brother to do? It was unknown when Mu Yan had already turned around, but she looked at Shui Huailu with a smile that was not a smile. Come, say it a little louder, let me hear it. In that instant, Shui Huailu's twisted expression froze on his face. His pupils contracted violently because of fear. Jun Mayan. He almost forgot that Yap Liang Chen is Jun Mayan. Instructor Long Teng and the members of the Qilin team in the Chaotic Tower knew about it. However, because of the restrictions of the 6 Stars Order, no one could reveal it. Not only could they not reveal it, but they couldn't even think of revealing it. Otherwise, they would be executed by the 6 Stars Order. Chapter 2490. Mayan slowly stood up and walked towards Shui Huailu, pulling Luo Yu behind her. Luo Yu happily accepted her 6th senior sister's protection. She took out a spirit fruit and munched on it while admiring Shui Huailu's terrified expression. The two leaving Aperture Realm cultivators who were standing quietly behind Xue Huailu to protect him were baffled by Xue Huailu's fearful expression. The girl before them was only a nascent soul cultivator, and she didn't exude any killing intent. Why was the young master so afraid? Xue Huailu didn't show any fear when Murong Xue's aura and killing intent erupted. One of them hurriedly stepped forward and whispered, "Don't worry, young master. With the two of us protecting you, no one will get a chance to hurt you." Xue Huailu glared at them. Worry? Worry my ass. He had almost forgotten that Lan Luoyu, that little bastard, was the junior of that demoness, Jun Mayan. What use were two leaving Aperture cultivators in the face of such a terrifying killer? Xue Huai had many experts by his side in the Woodfern secret realm, but wasn't he crushed like an ant by Mayan? Even more frightening was the news from those who'd been to the Woodfern secret realm. This Jun Mayan is valiant, vicious and merciless, but she also has a powerful backer behind her. Even the Xue family, which had lost two successors, didn't dare to settle the score with her. The Xue family only had two juniors, Xue Huailu and Xue Huai. With Xue Huai's death, Xue Huailu became the Xue family's sole heir. Even though his innate spiritual roots were mostly destroyed, the Xue family could only focus on nurturing him and his descendants. This was also why Xue Huailu dared to be so arrogant. However, he can be arrogant towards anyone, but he doesn't dare to be arrogant towards Jun Mayan. Others might fear his identity as the Xue family's successor, but she definitely wouldn't. Moreover, this demoness was definitely capable of killing him in front of everyone just because of a disagreement. Xue Huailu's lips trembled, and he squeezed out an ugly smile after a while. "June. Goddess, ye must be joking. How would I dare speak rudely to your junior brother?" You were just joking." Luo Yu took a bite of the spirit fruit and giggled. "So young Master Xue was joking with me to call me a bastard." Sure, courtesy demands reciprocity. I can't fall behind." Xue Huailu bastard. Xue Huailu bastard. Xue Huailu bastard. Xue Huailu's face contorted in anger, and smoke almost rose from the top of his head. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and endured it. When his underlings wanted to teach Luo Yu a lesson, he even gave them 2 tight slaps. "Disgraceful things, get lost." Xue Huailu left dejectedly. Luo Yu happily takes Mayan's arm. 6th senior sister is mighty. Sure enough, as long as 6th senior sister was around, she could slap the face of a villain anytime and anywhere. This feeling could only be described with one word: awesome. This interlude passed quickly. In this noisy hall, it did not attract too much attention. At this time, when it was close to sea, Leng Qingwan and Lu Yu's group also arrived. Today, Leng Qingwan was wearing a gorgeous cloud gauze dress. She didn't wear a veil on her face, and she even had makeup on. Her whole person appeared flamboyant and gorgeous, but did not lose her charm. This kind of beauty was extremely impactful. Almost the moment she appeared, she attracted everyone's attention. This is immortal fairy Qingwan. Oh my god, so beautiful. Chapter 2491. Looking at it this way, this face really looks like Jun Mayan. Could it be that Qingwan Xianji is really Jun Mayan? Huh. The person accompanying Jun Qingwan seems to be someone from Ding Bei Ho's mansion. Her background doesn't seem to be small. Leng Qingwan's face is cold and arrogant, as if she doesn't listen to the noisy discussions around her. Her eyes sweep over and fall on Mu Yan, and her cold and arrogant expression instantly becomes gloomy and cold. Mu Yan looks at her face and slightly narrows her eyes. Leng Qingwan's face really changes. Now she looks at least 70 to 80% similar to herself. Moreover, there's no trace of a disguise. How did she do it? What's her purpose? Luo Yu grits her teeth. This woman is so shameless, pretending to be 6th sister's identity, and even stealing 6th sister's face. Shameless. Suzy, no way. Little sister is much better looking than this ugly woman. They don't look alike at all. Lan Huahong, and, the oldest mother is the most beautiful. Mu Yan. She can't help but laugh at these three clowns. Mississippi, Chu Tianyu suddenly whispers in her ear. The one on the left of Ling Qingwan is Lu Yu, and the one on the right is Chu Xinyan's adopted son, Chu Mingkuan. On the surface, Chu Mingkuan is Chu Xinyan's adopted son, but in fact, he specializes in handling some shameful matters for Chu Xinyan. For example, looking for innocent women who can bear Chu Xinyan's children for him to absorb their lifespan. Mu Yan's eyes darken. Just as she's talking, Chu Mingkuan strides over. A pair of hawk-like eyes looks at Mu Yan up and down, as if to engrave her appearance into his mind. Then he smiles lightly. Great God Yi, I've heard a lot about you. It's not easy to see the true face of the great god. Mu Yan leisurely drinks a cup of spirit wine. Is that so? This light sentence is clearly a perfunctory reply. Chu Mingkuan has always been the spokesperson of Dingbei Ho. Wherever he goes, people would hold him in high regard. Being treated so coldly at this time, he can't help but frown. But this trace of displeasure is quickly hidden, and the smile on his face becomes more and more genial. My Dingwa manor has favored great God Yi for a long time. Today, I, Chu Mingkuan, represent the Dingwa Ho Fu to extend an invitation to great God Yi. If great God is willing to come to my Dingwa Ho Fu, I guarantee you will receive the highest treatment. Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, I'm sorry, the people who want to hire me can line up from Ziyunjie to Minlujie. I don't know what kind of price the Dingwa manor can offer. Chu Mingkuan was startled and was about to speak. He then heard Mu Yan continue, if the price can't compare to the value of the mysterious heaven bead and the medicine king's inheritance, then don't say it out loud and make a fool of yourself. After all, this was the Dingwa Marquis residence. If you don't even have this much wealth, how can you invite others? Chu Mingkuan's face froze. His fake friendliness turned into malice. Yi Liangchen, I advise you not to do this the hard way. Do you really think you can hide in the dark forever? Since you have shown your face today, my Dingwa manor will definitely dig you out. At that time, have you thought about the consequences of offending the Dingwa manor? Mu Yan, I thought about it. So since I've already offended them, I might as well offend them a little more. The corners of her mouth gently rose, and her gaze swept over Ling Qingwan. So, it's better to wait until I become the champion of the pill competition, and when the Dingwa manor loses his underwear, then you can tell me about the consequences of offending the Dingwa manor. Chapter 2492. Ling Qingwan finally couldn't bear it anymore and screamed, Yi Liangchen, do you think you've won? Mu Yan thought for a moment. Based on past experience, I think it's right. Let me count. How many times has immortal fairy Qingwan run to me and hooted, only to suffer a crushing defeat and run away shamelessly? 3 times? 4 times? Or 5 times? Shut up. Ling Qingwan's eyes almost burst out. Yi Liangchen, I'm telling you, you could only beat me in Tianguang ruins, but in reality, you'll definitely lose. Before Mu Yan could speak, Su Ziyi suddenly smiled. Fairy Jun Qingwan, since you're so confident, why don't you make a bet with great God Yi? Ling Qingwan, what bet? Bet who will be the champion of the pill competition, of course. Su Ziyi said innocently, as for the bet? A cold light flashed in her clear eyes, and the tear mole under her eye was faintly discernible. Let's bet on this face. Whoever loses will use the sky-eroding water I just obtained some time ago to destroy his or her face. It's said that whatever is destroyed by the sky-eroding water can't be restored no matter what method is used. Mu Yan couldn't help but look at Su Ziyi. After their reunion, this kid has been so obedient that she almost forgot that he's a black man. The loser will use the sky-eroding water to destroy his or her face. How could he think of that? Isn't he afraid of losing? Suzy looked at her innocently. Mrs. Invincible, how could she lose? And if she loses, I'll just secretly change the sky-eroding water to ordinary corrosive water. Mu Yan held back her laughter. This kid is really naughty. But, she likes it. She's already unhappy looking at Ling Qingwan's face. It would be strange if anyone was happy looking at someone else's face. Hearing Suzy's words, Ling Qingwan didn't expose herself, but instead sneered, let's bet, do you really think I'm afraid of you? But, how can your ugly face compare to my peerless beauty? If you lose, I want you to destroy your dantian and hand over the King of Medicine's inheritance. Mu Yan raised her eyebrows. Ling Qingwan is so confident. What kind of trump card does he have? Ling Qingwan mocked, what? Don't you dare. Mu Yan shakes her head, no, I'm just counting. Including this time, how many times will you be slapped in the face? Doesn't it hurt to be slapped in public time and time again? Oh, I forgot, your skin is very thick, of course, it won't hurt. Ling Qingwan's face twisted again. But before she could even speak, a shout was heard from the Cloud Phoenix Hall's main entrance, His Majesty has arrived. The Empress has arrived. Just as the shout fell, a man and a woman dressed in dragon robes and phoenix coronets appeared on the only seat of honor in the Cloud Phoenix Hall. They were the Lan family empire's Emperor Lan Yitian and Empress Bai Wei. Just as the two of them sat down, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall shone brightly and an invisible barrier enveloped the entire hall. This was a protective barrier, as well as a powerful formation. From the moment the protective shield was activated, the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall prohibited the use of force, becoming a safe and stable place. This was also the Lan Clan Empire's protection for the imperial family and distinguished guests. The elixir competition will now begin. The three masters who advanced to the finals, please step forward. The eunuch beside Lan Yitian called out. Mu Yan, Ling Qingwan and Su Qingling stepped forward together and walked to the center of the hall. Chapter 2493. The three of them did not kneel down to salute, but just nodded slightly to the two people in the upper seats. Ling Qingwan proudly raised her chin, as if she was 100 times more noble than the bullshit emperor and empress. In the eyes of mortals and low-level cultivators, the emperor may be unattainable. But in fact, for powerful cultivators, the power of the emperor is nothing more than fleeting clouds. The throne and power were just fleeting clouds. Only powerful strength was worthy of respect and yearning. Therefore, Lan Yitian was not angry at the attitude of the three people. Instead, he revealed a warm smile. Gu did not expect that this year's alchemy competition's finals would be the top three masters of the coiled dragon list. Bai Wei's eyes were more focused on Mu Yan. After all, Lan Huahong was so close to Mu Yan, how could she not pay attention to him as his mother? Lan Yitian reluctantly announced the start of the alchemy competition. However, at this time, Chu Mingkuan suddenly stood up. Your Majesty, before the alchemy competition begins, my Dingwa Manor has something to confirm with Dragon Soaring Academy. With that, Chu Mingkuan looked at Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng and smiled faintly. Dean Zhou, why don't I see Elder Kong? You can't have forgotten the bet between your Dragon Soaring Academy and my Dingwa Manor, right? Elder Kong is the person who made the bet, but he did not appear today. Do you want to go back on your word? Zhou Daoyi's eyes flashed with extreme anger. Kong Yuanzhou was forced to make a bet with Chu Xinyan, and his beloved granddaughter died in front of him. For a moment, he felt guilty and sad, so he directly chose to go into seclusion. He hoped that one day his strength could surpass Chu Xinyan, and even break through the tribulation and ascend, so that he would no longer be threatened. And this news was naturally known by the Dingwa Manor. Now that he asked in public, it was obviously to humiliate and establish his power. Chu Mingkuan saw that Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng were so angry that they could not speak, and the smile on his face became more and more arrogant. Elder Kong did not come, and Dean Zhou is not willing to say it, then only I can say it. Our Dingwa Manor and Dragon Soaring Academy have an agreement in advance. If immortal fairy Qingwan, who is supported by my Dingwa Manor, wins the first place in the alchemy competition, Dragon Soaring Academy will have to hand over the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower. Dean Zhou, am I right? When these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone in the Devouring Cloud Phoenix Hall changed. Everyone in the Purple Cloud realm knew what kind of existence the 6-star pagoda was. It was a holy land for nurturing and verifying young elite cultivators. The fame of the Chaotic Pagoda was not as high as the 6 Stars Pagoda, but those who knew of it could clearly sense that its value far surpassed the 6 Stars Pagoda. Because the Chaotic Pagoda was evidently a heaven-defying divine tool used to train an army. Once someone obtained the Chaotic Tower and had sufficient power, their final achievements would be immeasurable. In this year, it was not as if there was no one who had designs on the Chaotic Tower. It was just that although the Chaotic Tower was in the Divine Elephant City, Long Teng was only entrusted to manage it, and did not have control over it. The true master of the Chaotic Pagoda was the artifact spirit of the 6-star pagoda. It was a mysterious existence that had existed for 1,000 years, and its strength far surpassed that of a cultivator at the tribulation stage. Once the 6 stars token appeared, anyone who dared to covet it would die without a burial ground. This was the reason why Chu Xinyan made a bet with Long Teng to bring the 6 stars pagoda and the Chaotic Pagoda together. When the people present heard this bet, they instantly realized something. Chapter 2494. Especially Lan Yitian, Bai Wei, and the others, their faces were unspeakably ugly. Long Teng was an academy. Even if they controlled the Chaotic Tower, they would not use it to accumulate power and plot against the world. But if the ambitious Dingwa Manor obtained it, it would be hard to say. Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongsheng trembled with anger. But this bet was made by them, and in front of everyone, they had no choice but to admit it. Now, the only thing they could hope for was for Mu Yan to win this competition. Zhou Daoi took a deep breath. Yes, we really. However, before Executive Zhou finished his words, he was interrupted by a pleasant but somewhat sarcastic female voice. There is indeed a bet, but I'm a little curious. If Long Teng loses, they have to hand over the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower. If Dingwa Manor loses, what do they have to hand over? Chu Mingquan's face stiffened, almost blurting out, naturally, Dingwa Manor will no longer pursue this matter. Halfway through his words, he couldn't continue. Not pursue what? Not pursue Long Teng for hiding Chu Tianyu. But Chu Tianyu was a student of Long Teng, how could it be considered as hiding? And Chu Xinyan's coercion of Long Teng, it couldn't be brought up to the public. Chu Mingquan's face suddenly turned green and white. Mu Yan chuckled, I've made so many bets in my life, but I've never heard of a bet that only requires one party. Your Majesty, Dingwa Manor doing this, isn't it too unkind, too unscrupulous? Lan Yitian said in a low voice, indeed. Chu Mingquan, this is Elder Kong and Father. Mu Yan didn't wait for him to finish speaking, immediately saying, since you already know that it's unscrupulous, it's not too late to change it. I think Dingwa Manor should add a bet on the spot. What should we add? Chu Tianyu bent down and whispered a few words in Mu Yan's ear. The smile on Mu Yan's face became brighter and brighter, adding a hint of charm to her originally ordinary appearance. If Fairy Qingwan loses, Dingwa Manor will give the Heavenly Dragon City in their hands to Long Teng Academy. How about it? Since Long Teng is a little far from Heavenly Dragon City, it's inconvenient to manage it, so I'll leave it to the Lan royal family to help manage it. Lan Yitian's eyes suddenly widen as he looks at Mayan with pleasant surprise. Chu Mingquan's expression could no longer be described as ugly. He was burning with rage, and there was even a trace of fear in his eyes. Lu Yu glared at him and scolded, idiot. Celestial Dragon City was an extremely important city. It was adjacent to the southern land and was backed by the heavenly Phoenix mountain range. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Moreover, it had abundant spiritual qi. Whoever obtained this city would be like obtaining a stronghold, like adding wings to a tiger. If they really lost to Sky Dragon City today, given Chu Xinyan's cruel and merciless character, he would definitely make Chu Mingquan suffer 100 times worse than death. Chu Mingquan's legs trembled at the thought of this. At this moment, he was filled with regret. Why did he deliberately step forward to humiliate Longteng? In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, he roasted himself on the fire. I can't make this decision, what's there to be afraid of? Just agree to it. Do you really think that this consort will lose to Yu Yangchen? Leng Qingwan raised her chin and proudly cut off Chu Mingquan's words. Chu Mingquan's voice was stuck in his throat, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Mu Yan almost burst out laughing. She immediately made a decision. Okay, the bet is set. I ask all the elders and seniors present to testify. Chapter 2495. Lan Etienne coughs lightly. We can personally testify that the bet between Dragon Soaring Academy and Dingua Manor is valid. Now, the pill competition officially begins. Leng Qingwan looks at Mu Yan with a cold and mocking gaze, and sneers, Yi Liangchen, do you think you've won? Do you really think I'm an idiot? If I wasn't sure, do you think I would make this bet with you? As soon as her voice falls, she raises her hand, and a silver alchemy furnace appears in front of everyone. This silver alchemy furnace is engraved with complex patterns, and there's a faint red light circulating on its surface. It's not an ordinary item at first glance. Most importantly, this alchemy furnace actually emits a faint pressure. Artifact? A master refiner exclaims and stands up abruptly. This alchemy furnace is an artifact? What? Using an artifact to refine pills, is this Qingwan crazy? Listening to the exclamations of the surrounding people, Leng Qingwan's face shows a mocking smile. A group of stupid mortals, country bumpkins who haven't seen the world. They simply don't know that in the Xiuxian continent, every alchemy furnace is at least an artifact level. It's just that the higher the grade of the artifact, the easier it is to be destroyed when passing through the space barrier. So now, she only has this artifact level, Xianyuan Cauldron. Leng Qingwan's gaze sharpens, and the immortal power in her dantian surges. A flame instantly appears in her palm, and she throws it into the Xianyuan Cauldron. There's clearly no elixir in the cauldron. But this flame burns fiercely inside. Moreover, the air was instantly filled with a refreshing smell. This is the legendary real Dan fire. This time, everyone is even more shocked than when they saw the artifact-level furnace. Even Su Qingling's complexion changes. There's actually someone in the Xiuxian continent who managed to refine a real Dan fire. Mu Yan slightly narrows her eyes, and a strange light flashes through them. She used to think that Dan fire only refers to the flame of alchemy. Later, after listening to her ninth master, she realized that it wasn't. Dan fire refers to an alchemist finding a powerful spiritual fire of heaven and earth, nourishing it with their own spiritual power and divine sense, and finally refining and absorbing it into the body to use it for alchemy. Only with this kind of alchemy fire would it have enough energy, and only then would the alchemist have enough control. In the Xiuxian continent, only cultivators who can control Dan fire are qualified to be called true Dan masters. Only those who had devoured and controlled their alchemic fire could refine pills above the 10th grade. It was the king elixir. Leng Qingwan looked around. Seeing everyone's shocked expression, the corner of her mouth slowly hooked up. Finally, her arrogant eyes fall on Mu Yan. Have you heard of Wang Dan? Someone was confused. What's a king pill? Someone gasped. Wang Dan. Wasn't that a pill that only existed in legends? I heard that no one in the cultivation world has ever been able to refine it successfully. Is immortal fairy Qingwan going to refine a monarch elixir? My god, if immortal fairy Qingwan can really refine king elixirs, then she'll definitely win. Leng Qingwan sneered, Yi Liangchen, I already said that I would lose to you in the Tianguang ruins because my strength was suppressed. But in the real world, you will definitely lose. After saying that, she unhesitatingly began to take out elixirs from her storage ring, and even immortal medicines, and threw them into the furnace. The finals of the elixir competition is very simple. There's no time limit, no cumbersome rules, only one. Chapter 2496. Whoever refined a pill that was more appreciated by the cultivators present would be the final winner. Looking at Leng Qingwan's skillful movements and the dazzling light emitted by the Xianyuan cauldron, Zhou Daoi's face was pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. He turned around and exchanged glances with Vice President Chu. They both saw the despair in each other's eyes. Jun Qingwan could actually refine a King Dan. They hadn't received any news before. Now, no matter how powerful the 10th grade Dan that Mu Yan refined, how could it be compared to the King Dan? Their soaring dragon was bound to lose. Su Qingling looked at it for a while and shook her head regretfully. She took a step back and said, I can't refine a king elixir. I'm willing to withdraw from this competition. Her appearance was beautiful and her temperament was carefree and straightforward. Regardless of whether he advanced or retreated, he was confident and unruffled. Before he left, he even took out 2 bottles of wine. He tossed one bottle to Mu Yan and casually took a sip from the other bottle. Then, he smiled and said, Almighty Yi, I'm more optimistic about you as the champion of the alchemy competition. Don't lose to those pretentious, arrogant women. Mu Yan took the bottle and drank a mouthful without hesitation. She chuckled and said, How can I disappoint Master Su with a beauty's trust? Su Qingling stared blankly for a moment before laughing out loud. She liked Yap Liangchen so much. After drinking the wine, Mu Yan casually tosses the bottle aside and takes out the alchemy furnace. Her alchemy furnace was of the 9th grade, and it was the best of the 9th grade. However, compared to Leng Qingwan's profound origin cauldron, it was naturally far inferior. When they see Mu Yan first put down the elixir, and then inject her own spiritual fire, many of the people present are already shaking their heads. Zhou Daoi's eyes were red. He held his head and fell into despair. Leng Qingwan takes a moment to glance at Mayan and sneers, struggling on your deathbed, hee, then this fairy will let you die a little more understanding. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly mobilized the immortal energy in her body and injected it into the profound origin cauldron. In the cultivation continent, it was extremely difficult to replenish immortal energy. When immortals came to the cultivation continent, they could only use their dantian as a medium to transfer the spiritual energy in the air. This was completely different from storing and producing spiritual power in one's dantian. Using one's dantian as a transit point, one could easily absorb the barren qi in the air and cause damage to one's soul. The immortal force stored in his dantian could expel this barren qi. However, once his immortal energy was used up, there was no way to replenish it in the cultivation world. His body would be completely corroded by the desolate qi, which was extremely dangerous. Therefore, people from the Shouxian continent would rarely use their immortal force when they came to the Shouxian continent. But at this moment, Leng Qingwan couldn't care less. She only wanted to ruthlessly trample on Yi Liangchen, then obtain the fame and inheritance that she deserved. As immortal qi was injected into the cauldron, everyone was shocked to see a black cloud appear above the mysterious Yuan cauldron. A faint golden light flickered in the dark clouds, and from time to time, muffled sounds of thunder could be heard. Tribulation cloud. These are tribulation clouds. I've heard that in the cultivation continent, refining a pill above the 10th grade is equivalent to transcending the tribulation, so there will be a lightning tribulation. Oh my god, so immortal fairy Qingwan really refined a king elixir that's more powerful than a 10th grade elixir? Ling Qingwan's eyes shone brightly as she attentively looked at the alchemy cauldron, injecting her spiritual power. It was also at this time that Mayan raised her head to look at the tribulation clouds. The corners of her mouth slowly hooked up into a faintly discernible smile. At this very moment, everyone's eyes are focused on Ling Qingwan. Chapter 2497. No one noticed that Mayan, who had just been unhurriedly throwing the elixirs into the furnace, is now moving her hands faster and faster. The flames in the cauldron grew stronger and stronger. There was even a hint of an incomparably fragrant smell in the air where the flames were burning. However, after this fragrance was released, it was absorbed by the pill in the cauldron. Not even the slightest bit of it leaked out. Furthermore, no one noticed that the originally pitch-black spirit medicines within the pill furnace were beginning to emit a strange faint golden light. On the other side, Ling Qingwan's alchemy had already entered the final stage of core formation. Fine beads of sweat dripped down her forehead, and her face was deathly pale because she had consumed more than half of her immortal power but was unable to replenish it. However, her eyes were bursting with excitement and agitation. Above their heads, the rumbling thunder seemed like it would fall at any moment. As long as the core was formed, the lightning tribulation would fall and coat the surface of the elixir with a layer of heavenly Tao golden light, which meant that the king elixir had been formed. In fact, it was much easier to refine a king pill in the Xiuxian continent, and there was no need to go through a lightning tribulation. But at the same time, the value of a king pill that had been refined through the baptism of lightning on the Xiuxian continent was incomparable to any king pill on the Xiuxian continent. As long as this pill is out of the furnace, all these stupid mortals of the cultivation continent will all kneel at his feet. As for Yi Liangchen, that bitch whose cultivation was about to be destroyed was not qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as him. Within the Cloud Phoenix Hall, everyone's gaze fell upon Ling Qingwan's profound origin cauldron. Because it was about to form its core, the runes on the profound origin cauldron were bright red and dazzling. It was as if a precious treasure was about to be born, attracting everyone's attention. Chu Mingquan, who had been trembling with fear and uneasiness, finally relaxed. A leisurely smile appeared on his face again. Finally, the spirit herbs in the mystic origin cauldron gradually condensed into pills. 2. This cauldron actually has 2 king pills. Heavens! I haven't even gone through the lightning tribulation's baptism, but I can already feel the powerful energy emanating from this medicinal pill. Moreover, this energy is not pure spiritual power, but it makes me feel more comfortable than spiritual power. Ling Qingwan raised the corner of her mouth, as if she was swallowing clouds. He sent a strand of celestial energy into the sky and said indifferently, "Come, lightning tribulation, help me form the pill." 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths passed. However, her surroundings were quiet and there was no tribulation lightning falling. Ling Qingwan stared blankly and hurriedly raised her head to look. However, as soon as she looked, she was immediately dumbfounded. Gone. The tribulation cloud that was floating above her head just now had actually disappeared. Rumble. A thunderous sound came from not far away from her. Ling Qingwan abruptly turned his head to look, and then saw an unbelievable scene. When did the tribulation cloud appear above Yap Liangchen's head? Moreover, the golden light hidden in the tribulation clouds was even brighter than before. What Ling Qingwan heard was a rumbling sound. It was the sound of the first bolt of tribulation lightning striking the grade 9 furnace. The people from the Cloud Phoenix Palace were all dumbfounded. What is going on? Why was Jun Qingwan's tribulation over, but Yi Liangchen's pill was undergoing tribulation? Wasn't it Jun Qingwan who refined the king pill? No. The problem is, Yi Liangchen didn't use a real alchemy fire, so how could he refine the king pill? How could he attract the tribulation lightning? Chapter 2498. Suddenly, there's a weak voice, I just saw the tribulation cloud above Jun Qingwan go to Ye Lianken's side. Shit! Is this even possible? This is the roaring thought in everyone's mind at this time. Without Dan fire, it's impossible to refine a real king pill, and naturally, it can't attract the lightning tribulation. Therefore, when almost everyone knows that Leng Qingwan can refine a king pill, they think that Ye Lianken will lose. Because everyone knows that Ye Lianken can use spiritual fire, and her spiritual fire's purity is very high. Ordinary alchemy cauldrons below the 8th level can't withstand it. That's why, during the competition at Tianguang Ruins, furnaces exploded one after another. But no matter how pure the spiritual fire is, it's still spiritual fire, not Dan fire. It can't attract the lightning tribulation. However, great god Ye Lianken doesn't play cards according to common sense. Without Dan fire, you can't attract the lightning tribulation. Then I'll just snatch the lightning tribulation that others attract. The key point is that she really fucking snatched the lightning tribulation. Before this, who had ever heard that the thunder tribulation could be fucking snatched from others? Many people don't even know that in the Xiuzhen continent, one has to go through the lightning tribulation to refine a king pill. Of course, the one who can't accept this scene the most is not the onlookers. It's Leng Qingwan. She's going crazy, impossible. This is impossible. That's my lightning tribulation, mine. How could it be snatched by a slut like you? Boom. Another lightning tribulation falls. Mayan quickly infuses the spiritual power in her body with a trace of immortal power into the alchemy cauldron. The 9th rank alchemy cauldron creaks, as if it will break at any time. But because of the infusion of Mayan's spiritual power, it finally holds up. The next moment, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall is filled with a refreshing fragrance. Lan Yitian, who is sitting on the main seat, takes a deep breath and his face changes. He feels that his cultivation, which has been shackled for a long time, is faintly showing signs of loosening. What elixir is this? It has such an effect just by smelling it. What if it's taken? The falling lightning tribulation raises a dust cloud. When the dust cloud dissipates, everyone pokes their heads to look. He saw that there were 3 pills in the already tottering grade 9 cauldron. Every single one of them emitted a strong fragrance of energy that could make one go crazy. Each of them had a faint golden pattern on their surface. This is a king pill. Someone exclaimed. This really is a king pill. So, it is possible to refine a king pill without Dan fire? Hee, that's god ye, alright. If it were you, why don't you try snatching a thunder tribulation? Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng came over to take a look. At that time, they felt dizzy and almost couldn't believe it was real. Jun Mayan snatched Leng Qingwan's thunder tribulation and refined it into a real king pill, so their Longting won? Was this a miracle? Was there light at the end of the tunnel? The 1,000-year foundation of the soaring dragon could finally be preserved. For a moment, Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng couldn't describe their feelings, but their eyes were already red. At this moment, their admiration and gratitude towards Mu Yan have reached the extreme. He felt that only such a woman was worthy of that most honorable person. But Chu Mingkuan and Lu Yu were the complete opposite of Zhou Daoyi and the others. The thunder tribulation was snatched, and Leng Qingwan failed to refine a king pill. It was simply like a bolt from the blue, beating them silly. Lost? The Dingguo Manor lost? No. How could this be? How could this be? Chapter 2499. If they not only fail to win back the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower, but instead lose the Heavenly Dragon City, one can imagine what kind of fate they will have when they return. In a split second, the two look at Leng Qingwan with eyes full of hatred. At this time, Leng Qingwan has completely forgotten about the bet she made. Watching the third lightning strike, the fragrance of the elixir that Mayan refined becomes stronger, and the golden patterns become more dazzling. Ling Qingwan couldn't bear it anymore. She suddenly pulls out a dagger, roars, and pounces towards Mayan. "Slut, you dare to steal my lightning tribulation. I want your dog life." The dagger in her hand exudes a dark green light. As soon as the dagger appears, the surrounding temperature seems to drop a lot, giving people an incomparably gloomy feeling. Mayan recognizes it at a glance. This is the soul-imprisoning dagger that Ling Qingwan wanted to kill her in the Yanwu continent. Compared to the soul-imprisoning dagger that Ling Qingwan used as a temporary body, this one is of a much higher level, and much more sinister. The corner of Mayan's mouth slightly hooks up, revealing an awe-inspiring smile. Very good. This time, she is 100% sure that this Ling Qingwan in front of her is the woman who tried to kill her and Xiao Bao, and also caused the death of Changyu. Then, let's settle old and new accounts together. Sixth sister, be careful. Big sister, get out of the way. Seeing this scene, Luo Yu and Su Zi are so scared that their hearts are about to jump out. Anyone can see that there's something strange about that dagger. However, just as they get up and want to rush over, they are stunned by the scene in front of them. When Ling Qingwan rushes over, Mayan suddenly turns her hand over, and there's a fluffy little yellow chick in her palm. The little chick is still in a daze. When it was pulled out, it staggers and stands up in Mayan's palm. There's an ahog on the top of its head, swaying back and forth. It's indescribably cute. Its big round eyes slowly widen. The little chick's sleepy eyes finally see its beloved mother, and it immediately chirps happily. However, just as its short legs step out, it steps on the edge of Mayan's palm and falls down. 2 bubbles of tears suddenly appear in its big eyes. Mu Yan only has time to gently stroke the silly chick's head, and Ling Qingwan's attack has already arrived. She dodged to the side. The dagger flashed with a green light as it brushed past her ear. How could Ling Qingwan be willing to give up? She turned around and attacked Mu Yan in a frenzy. The remaining earth immortal power in her body poured out without hesitation. She wanted Yap Liangqin dead. She wanted this slut to die without a burial. This time, Mu Yan didn't dodge the devour. Instead, he raised his hand and the 7 absolute sword appeared in an instant. A sound came from the air, and the soul-binding dagger was blocked. Ling Qingwan stared blankly. This soul-binding dagger is a heavenly god artifact. How could it be blocked? However, before she could see what was blocking her, a white light flashed in front of her. The 7 absolute sword disappeared. At the same time, Mu Yan, who had used stunning lotus step by step, also disappeared. Ling Qingwan immediately lost her balance and staggered forward, crashing straight into the alchemy furnace. At the same time, the last bolt of lightning fell. The 9th grade alchemy furnace, which was already on the verge of collapse, let out an ear-piercing crackling sound. Finally, it shattered with a bang. Ah! How could this be? This alchemy furnace is too weak, it can't withstand the lightning tribulation at all. Could it be that the refining of the king elixir failed just like that? However, just when everyone was shocked and disappointed. Chapter 2500. Ling Qingwan, who had just hit the furnace, lets out a mournful shriek. Sizzle. The sound of flesh being scorched is accompanied by a burning smell, filling the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Everyone looks at the scene in front of them, dumbfounded and speechless. In this strange silence, Mayan leisurely walks forward, picks up 3 glittering golden elixirs from the ground, and says with a smile, "Fairy Qingwan is really kind and charitable. I was originally thinking what to do if the 9th rank furnace couldn't withstand all the lightning tribulations. It's not impossible to block the last lightning tribulation with one's flesh and blood, but it would be very painful. I was hesitating whether or not to do it. I didn't expect that Fairy Qingwan would be anxious and bear this lightning tribulation for me. She gently turns the golden elixir in her hand. I really have to thank Fairy Qingwan for being able to refine a king elixir. Pfft. Ling Qingwan, who is lying on the ground after being struck by the lightning, and her back is still charred, finally can't bear it and spits out a mouthful of blood. Mayan gently throws one of the king elixirs into a golden cauldron in the center of the Cloud Phoenix Hall, and slowly says, "Your Majesty, may I ask if you can announce the results of the pill competition?" In the dead silence, the girl's voice is particularly crisp and sweet. But it's also like the evening drum and morning bell, ruthlessly striking everyone's ears. Lan Tian suddenly comes back to his senses, suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, and loudly says, "We hereby announce that the pill competition is over, and the champion this time is Yi Liangchen. I refuse to accept this." Ling Qingwan roars, crawling up from the ground. Her blood-red eyes stare at Mayan with bone-piercing hatred. "The one who refined the king elixir should be me. The winner should be me. It was you, slut, who cheated and stole my tribulation cloud. I am the real champion." "But why? Why can you steal my tribulation cloud? Why?" Mayan sneers, gently stroking the little chick's head. "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, what you need to consider now is not how I stole your tribulation cloud, but how you and North Ding Ho Mansion should fulfill the bet." She raised her head and looked at Ling Qingwan's distorted but still beautiful face. She sneered, "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, you couldn't have forgotten the contents of the bet, right? Immortal Fairy, don't forget that I can remind you." Su Zi chuckled. "If Immortal Fairy Qingwan loses, you have to destroy your own appearance. I've already prepared the heaven-eroding water. Immortal Fairy Qingwan, don't go back on your word." Su Zi took out the heaven-eroding water and threw it to one of his guards. The guard was an old man at the pinnacle of the astral body realm. Upon receiving the order, he immediately took the heaven-eroding water and walked towards Ling Qingwan. Ling Qingwan's expression changed greatly as she screamed, "You dare! Do you know who I am? I am an immortal from the Shuxian continent. What qualifications do you lowly mortals have to judge me? What qualifications do you have to make me fulfill the bet? This empress disdains to play with you bunch of trash anymore." Saying that, she turned around and rushed towards the door without hesitation. The Cloud Phoenix Hall had a barrier, but to an immortal like her, this bit of barrier was really nothing. However, just as she rushed to the door, Ling Qingwan felt her vision go black. Her whole body heavily crashed into a wall of flesh and bounced back. "Who is it? You dare to trespass into the Imperial Palace?" Lan Tian immediately sensed that someone had entered the Cloud Phoenix Hall's barrier and couldn't help but shout. Just then, Mayan heard a familiar voice. Chapter 2501. Tisk, June Shang should be talking about this place, right? Miss June. Why are you here? What are you doing here? At the same time, this question also resounds in Mayan's mind. She looked in astonishment at the man who had just walked in from the entrance of the Cloud Phoenix Hall. It was actually Star Wolf. What was this fellow doing here? Wait a minute. Mu Yen suddenly remembered that before she had come to participate in the pill competition, her ninth master had said that he would have someone support him. It should be the flowery peacock that ninth Shifu particularly disliked and always talked about. Could Star Wolf be the flower peacock that ninth master mentioned? No. With Star Wolf's appearance, was he worthy of the title of flower peacock? She must be mistaken. Ninth master is cultivating to the level of devouring. How could it be so easy to get someone to come down from the immortal continent to help her? What was Star Wolf doing here? Just as she's thinking, Mayan sees Xing Lang striding towards Ling Qingwan. He helps her up and nervously asks, "Miss June, what's wrong? Who hurt you?" When he said the last sentence, there was an obvious killing intent in his tone. However, Mu Yan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This idiot Xing Lang actually thought that Ling Qingwan was her. Not only was there something wrong with this idiot's brain, but he was also blind. Ling Qingwan, who originally wanted to flee, also recognized one of Di Ming's trusted subordinates, Star Wolf. She felt a burst of excitement in her heart. She rolled her eyes and tears immediately welled up in her eyes. Star Wolf, I thought that I would never be able to see Monarch again. When Xing Lang saw the pitiful and tearful Jun Mayan, he did not feel distressed or worried. Instead, he shuddered all over. Goosebumps rose all over his body. The female demon was crying. She was actually shedding tears. She actually calls Jun Shangdi Jun. What was going on? Is Jun Mayan's brain broken, or? Xing Lang takes a step back, vigilantly saying, Jun Mayan, are you going to mess with me again? I'm warning you. Even if I, Star Wolf, die, I will absolutely not wear female clothes again. Mu Yan. What kind of image does she have in Xinglang's heart? Ling Qingwan's pitiful crying face also froze. Gritting his teeth, he cursed the Star Wolf half to death. However, on the surface, he could only force himself to remain calm. Star Wolf, where's the monarch? Star Wolf frowned and looked at Ling Qingwan suspiciously and vigilantly. Didn't say anything. Ling Qingwan gritted her teeth, but the crying on her face became even more sorrowful. Xing Lang, you clearly know my identity. Could it be that you want to watch this group of people bully and humiliate me with your own eyes? The injuries on my body were all inflicted by these bitches. Furthermore, these people wanted to ruin my appearance and harm me. Have you forgotten? I'm the Emperor Lord's fiancé. Could it be that you want to watch the Polar Domain's mistress suffer such humiliation? Hearing this, Star Wolf immediately cast aside the doubts in his heart. No matter what tricks the demoness was playing, she was still the future mistress of the Polar Domain. How could they allow others to bully them? Xing Lang sneered and said in a deep voice, Speak, who was it that humiliated Miss June earlier? Step out yourself and I'll give you a quick death. Is that so? Mu Yan unhurriedly walked up, the corners of her mouth hooked up in a mocking arc as she looked at Star Wolf. I really want to see how you're going to give me a quick death. Star Wolf stared blankly. This person's appearance and temperament, why does he have a familiar feeling? You are. Chapter 2502. Ling Qingwan pretends to be pitiful and doesn't speak, but she gives Lu Yu a look. Lu Yu guessed that Xing Lang's identity and strength isn't simple, so he immediately steps forward and says, reporting to this immortal, this person is called Yang Chen. These days, he has been bullying and humiliating Miss June. Xing Lang suddenly widens his eyes and stares at Mayan in disbelief, then turns to look at Ling Qingwan. Dumbfounded. Yang Chen. That's not right, isn't that the female devil's alias in Tianguang ruins? Or did he remember it wrong? Could it be that the female devil's alias in Tianguang ruins wasn't Yang Chen? What was it called again? Xing Lang is in a mess. Ling Qingwan can't bear it anymore. Since the beginning of the pill competition, she has always been rubbed against by Yang Chen. This slut slaps her face again and again, and her patience has reached its limit. Thinking of Yang Chen's frightening talent in alchemy, endless jealousy and panic rises in her heart. Ling Qingwan feels that she can't let Yang Chen stay. As long as Yang Chen is alive, whether it's her reputation, status, or schemes, they will all become bubbles. Ling Qingwan steps forward and sternly says, Xing Lang, what are you hesitating for? I told you to kill this slut, didn't you hear me? Xing Lang tightly frowns and suspiciously looks at the woman in front of him. Are you really Jun Mayan? This face is indeed very beautiful. Even in the Shushan continent, where there is an immortal atmosphere, it's very rare to see such a stunning appearance. But Xing Lang feels that something isn't quite right. Does the female devil look like this? It's all his fault that he either hated June Mayan or feared the female devil, so he didn't look at the future mistress of the polar domain carefully. For a moment, he can't judge with his naked eyes. Ling Qingwan panics and raises her voice. Xing Lang, what do you mean by that? Are you doubting my identity? Luo Yu sneers. Your fake identity has been exposed several times, is there still a need to doubt it? As soon as this is said, the others in the Cloud Phoenix Hall also whispers. I also remember that this June Qingwan has been exposed as a fake, right? Then is she June Mayan or not? Ling Qingwan knew that Luo Yu had followed Yap Liangchen here and her heart was filled with hatred towards these people. Her cold gaze sweeps over everyone present, and finally falls on Xing Lang. She does her utmost to release her pressure in imposing manner. Xing Lang, you have to think clearly. If I'm not June Mayan, then who am I? Is there anyone else in this world who looks like me? Immediately, Ling Qingwan's sharp gaze turns towards Mayan. You're saying that I'm an imposter? Then I would like to ask, where is the real June Mayan? If you have the ability, then let your so-called Supreme Mayan come out and confront me. Ah. Luo Yu gritted her teeth and spat. This stupid imposter was just relying on the fact that his sixth sister didn't want to expose Yu Yangchen's identity. How shameless. Seeing that Mayan and Luo Yu are silent, the smile on Ling Qingwan's face becomes more and more complacent. What? Can't find it. What right do you have to say that I'm a fake? Her gaze falls on Xing Lang again. At this time, the delicate and pitiful look on her face has already disappeared, replaced by an aloof arrogance and overbearingness. Xing Lang, don't forget what your identity is, and what my identity is. If you dare to disobey my orders, do you believe that I won't let Monarch expel you from the polar domain immediately? Chapter 2503. Star Wolf was speechless for a moment. What he feared the most was being expelled from the polar domain and not being able to serve by Emperor's side. And he had offended Mayan in too many ways, fearing that Mayan would find him to settle accounts. Ling Qingwan saw the fear that flashed in Star Wolf's eyes and became increasingly arrogant. Pointing at Mayan, she said, "Kill this slut for me right now. I can consider it as atonement for your crimes and allow you to continue staying in the polar domain." Star Wolf's brows tightly wrinkled, momentarily in a dilemma. Everyone in the Cloud Phoenix Hall was confused, not understanding what was going on. Everyone didn't recognize Star Wolf, only knowing that his cultivation was extremely high, so high that even the peak of leaving body stage present couldn't fathom his actual strength. Moreover, the words, polar domain, and monarch, in his conversation with Ling Qingwan caused everyone to scratch their heads in confusion. Only Zhou Daoyi and the others could vaguely guess the identity of the person who came. They stepped forward and blocked in front of Mayan, saying anxiously, "This immortal, you must not harm June. Miss Yi, otherwise it will be too late for regrets." Oh my, he was really worried to death. If Miss June still refused to reveal her identity, wouldn't that bullshit immortal fairy's plot succeed? Lu Yu laughed cruelly at the side. "Principal Zhou, in order to win the pill competition, your Longting Academy and this Yu Yangchen really stopped at nothing. Longting's background was deep, using despicable means to deceive and humiliate. Miss June, we dared not say anything, but now the person supporting Miss June has come. Zhou Daoyi, you still dare to stop the immortal from standing up for Miss June, hee, really arrogant and despotic, not putting the immortal in his eyes." Chu Mingkuan immediately said, "Immortal, these few bastards really bullied Miss June, you must kill them and take revenge for Miss June." Zhou Daoyi was so angry that he fell down, he had never seen such a shameless person. And this wolf, he was obviously the confidant of Emperor, how could he be so stupid? At this point, who was the real master, he still couldn't recognize her. Zhou Daoyi was full of bitterness and grievance, he could only look at Mayan. He can only hope that Mu Yan can quickly remove the disguise and ruthlessly slap this impostor's face. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a cold arc, but she doesn't say anything. It seems like the time he sent the star wolf to, drunk life dreaming death, was not long enough, the lesson he received was not enough. This guy was itching for a beating again. Star Wolf had already walked in front of her and said in a deep voice, "Who exactly are you?" At such a close distance, he can see the disguise on Mu Yan's face. He can't help but lower his voice, "Show me your true face." Mayan sneers, "You want me to show my true face?" "Sorry, who do you think you are?" Xing Lang's face stiffened. This familiar tone of disdain and indolent disdain made his heart churn. In the next moment, he heard Mu Yan's unhurried but somewhat malicious voice, "Looks like the last time you were drunk and dreaming didn't teach you enough of a lesson." Star Wolf suddenly opened his eyes wide, his body trembling uncontrollably. He almost blurted out, "How did you know?" "No, you are." Before he could finish speaking, suddenly, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall slightly shook. Lan Etienne was first startled, feeling that the barrier was invaded by a powerful energy. But this time, before he could speak, a terrible pressure instantly enveloped the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Chapter 2504. In an instant, the originally noisy hall fell into absolute silence. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the entrance. Looking at the man who walked in, they could only exclaim in their hearts, "Holy shit! How could there be such a handsome man in this world?" The man who had appeared at the entrance was as handsome as jade, unparalleled in elegance. His handsome facial features were as if they were sculpted by the gods, and there wasn't the slightest flaw to be found on him. The so-called dragon and phoenix appearance, natural and natural. After the exclamation, there was a kind of fear and submission from the bottom of their hearts. Almost everyone unconsciously stood up and lowered their eyes. Their hearts were thumping non-stop and their faces were burning hot, but they didn't even have the courage to look up again. Even Lan Etienne and Bai Wei unconsciously stood up, shocked and aghast at the man who was slowly walking in. At this moment, they only felt that this man was the Real Supreme King. What Lan Empire's royal family, in front of him, was nothing. And Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongsheng, who knew the man's identity, had already knelt down with a thud. The greetings to the Emperor, was already at their throats, but they swallowed it back. Emperor. Ling Qingwan's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Her eyes were infatuated and delicate as she looked at the man who walked in, her delicate body trembling slightly. "Emperor, Mayan finally sees you again." She looked like a little woman who had been wronged and couldn't help but vent and seek comfort and protection from her lover. It also made the people of the Cloud Phoenix Hall feel indescribable shock. Who was this mysterious man who suddenly appeared? What was his relationship with Jun Qingwan? Could it be that he really came to support Jun Qingwan? Many of Yi Liangqin's supporters couldn't help but clench their fists, their hearts breaking out in cold sweat for their idol. Because this mysterious man's strength was too strong. He was so strong that without knowing his cultivation level, without needing him to use any spells, everyone could feel the overwhelming gap. And the shock in Mayan's heart was no less than the others. Her gaze fell on Di Ming, and she blinked again and again. Divine imprint. From Di Ming's body, she actually felt the imprint of her ninth master's divine imprint. So, the shameless peacock that attracted bees and butterflies was Di Ming? While he was still in shock, he heard Ling Qingwan say those nauseating words. Instantly, his face turned ashen, and a sea of jealousy surged. Devour when he saw that the woman was looking at Di Ming with a face that was similar to his own, he became even angrier. The joy of reuniting after such a long time had been replaced by anger. Mu Yan suddenly stops herself from hugging Di Ming and sneers coldly. She recalled that she was now disguised as Yap Liangchen. She wants to see if Di Ming will mistake Ling Qingwan for Jun Mayan, like Xing Lang if she doesn't go up to acknowledge him. If he really dared to make a mistake. Mayan clenched her fists so tightly that they creaked. In her mind, she was already calculating what other spiritual fruits were suitable for kneeling besides the golden Bodhi fruit. Just as he was thinking about this, the man turned around and his gaze fell on Mu Yen. Almost at the same time, Mu Yen feels that in her sea of consciousness, the divine sense imprint that her master left behind is faintly heating up. She knew that Di Ming was also activating his soul consciousness to find the Medicine King's successor. Their gazes met. The man stared blankly for a moment, then a scorching flame suddenly ignited in the depths of his ice-blue eyes. Chapter 2505. It feels like he's going to swallow her up. Mu Yen takes a step back subconsciously. Then, she quickly stabilizes her body. Don't panic. Her current appearance is Yu Yangchen. And because Di Ming can't enter Tianguang ruins, he has never seen her appearance. So, he shouldn't know that she is Jun Mayan, right? Yes, he definitely can't swallow her. He knows. While she is thinking about it, Di Ming has already strode in front of her, bent down and whispered in her ear. The man's unique breath is blowing in her ear, bringing a warm feeling that makes her blush and her heart beat faster. Mu Yan's legs soften. She almost thinks that she will hear Yen Yen next. Who knows, the man gently spits out 3 words in her ear, Han Chujiu's apprentice. Mu Yen immediately calms down. Sure enough, Di Ming really came to support Jiu Shifu's apprentice. So, he didn't recognize her. Mu Yen is very glad at this time. The disguise on her face makes people unable to see the change of her mood. But when she thinks that Di Ming can't recognize her, Mu Yen inexplicably feels stifled. This bastard, I just changed my appearance. He actually can't recognize me. Could it be that she would mistake Ling Qingwan for Jun Mayan? Thinking of this possibility, she can't keep a straight face. Because she is too emotional, Mu Yen doesn't notice that the man standing next to her is looking at her. His eyes are full of tenderness. The corner of his mouth gently hooks up into a shallow smile. But Ling Qingwan can't accept it more than Mu Yen. Her pair of beautiful eyes are full of tears. She looks at Di Ming for a long time and speaks to him affectionately and pitifully. But Di Ming doesn't even look at her. He goes to Yu Yangchen, that bitch. And he speaks so intimately to Mu Yan's ear. What does that bitch have? Why? With such an ugly and ordinary face, how can she seduce Di Jun? How can she steal my limelight? Di Jun. Ling Qingwan shouts, Di Jun, what are you doing? I am Jun Mayan, your fiancé. Why don't you look at me, but at other women? Her words finally attract Di Ming's attention. His unperturbed gaze falls on Ling Qingwan's face. When he sees that face that is 70% similar to Mayan's, his blue eyes instantly became as cold as ice, bursting forth with a bone-piercing chill. However, this chill was instantly restrained. Unhurriedly, you said you're Jun Mayan. Yes, I'm Jun Mayan. Ling Qingwan finally let Di Ming look at her. Her face is flushed with excitement. She fiddled with her hair, trying to make her face look flawless. Thinking of how much Di Ming doted on that slut Jun Mayan, the relationship between the two might not be ordinary. Yes, I really miss you. I really miss you. Ling Qingwan called out the most affectionate form of address. She took a step forward and was about to throw herself into Di Ming's arms. The affection in her eyes was almost overflowing. However, in the next moment, her entire body was sent flying. She crashed heavily onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. No one noticed when Ling Qingwan was sent flying backwards. A ray of faint blue light, with lightning speed, entered Ling Qingwan's body and disappeared without a trace. Ling Qingwan struggled to get up, she couldn't believe what had just happened. Lu Yu and Chu Minghuan were even more dumbfounded. They had just guessed that this person who was called Di Jun must have come from the Shoshian continent. Moreover, even in the Shoshian continent, his identity must be extraordinary. Chapter 2506. If Jun Qingwan is really this Di Jun's fiancé, then the benefits that North Ding Ho Manor can obtain would be immeasurable. And they also believe that no man in the world would be able to refuse a peerless beauty like Jun Qingwan throwing herself into his arms. However, to their surprise, not to mention accepting the embrace, Di Mingju directly kicks the person out without any tender feelings for the fairer sex. After kicking her, he turns to look at Mayan, and uses his deep magnetic voice to slowly say, "Is it enough to support you?" Mayan, so he really came to support Ninth Master's disciple? If it's still not enough. Di Mingju steps towards Mayan. Mayan subconsciously steps back, but before she can take 2 steps back, she's already against the pillar of the Cloud Phoenix Hall. There's nowhere to retreat. The man's figure and the familiar aura, with a strong aggressiveness, completely surround her. His slender fingers pressed against the pillar, blocking her from moving sideways to avoid it. If it's still not enough, Ben Jun can still do a little more, a little better. From the side, it looks like a tall and handsome man is gently caressing a young girl's soft cheeks. That posture was indescribably ambiguous. The Cloud Phoenix Hall is completely silent. Everyone's eyes widen, their mouths open as they watch this scene. Their hearts are in turmoil. Fuck, fuck, fuck. It turns out that this godlike handsome man isn't Jun Qingwan's fiancé, but has an affair with great god Yi. Ling Qingwan, who has just recovered from the pain of her broken ribs and sees the scene in front of her, simply goes crazy. Di Jun, what are you doing? I'm Jun Mayan, I'm your fiancé. She screams and pounces over, wanting to hug Di Mingju. Di Jun, look at me, look at my stunning appearance. How can this ugly slut compare to me? This time, Ling Qingwan finally rushes in front of Di Mingju. The pear blossom's tear-stained face is raised high, looking at Di Mingju with infatuation and longing. In fact, Ling Qingwan isn't clear about the extent of the relationship between Di Mingju and Jun Mayan. Therefore, she doesn't dare to keep saying, "I am Jun Mayan," to provoke Di Mingju. She's afraid that when Di Mingju learns that Jun Mayan was killed by Ling Yuexia, he would fly into a terrible rage and vent his anger on her. But Ling Qingwan has always believed that the reason why Jun Mayan could attract Di Mingju is because of her face. As long as she has Jun Mayan's face, as long as Di Jun looks at her, he will be completely attracted to her. And this time, Di Mingju can finally see her face up close. Ling Qingwan was so excited that she even blinked her eyes, revealing what she thought was her most charming expression. However, in the next moment, the man's cold voice was heard saying slowly, "You're the one who bullied my fiancé in Tianguang ruins? Is Benjuan's fiancé someone you can bully as you please?" As he spoke, he placed his hand on Mayan's shoulder and pressed her directly into his embrace. Mu Yan jerks her head to look at him. Did this guy recognize her? Di Mingju's face shows a faintly discernible smile. He slightly bends down, his thin lips close to her ear, and hoarsely says, "Didn't your master ask Benjun to pretend to be your fiancé?" Yan. Miss Yi, don't take offense. Before Mayan could react, Ling Qingwan has already screamed in disbelief, "Impossible. How could this ugly freak be your fiancé? This is absolutely impossible." Chapter 2507. During this period of time, Ling Qingwan has experienced being abandoned by the polar domain, Tiani men being destroyed, and living under someone else's roof. Her life is worse than a dog's. She thought that when she came to the Shoshan continent, she could be high and mighty, casually stepping on mortals and ants, and receive everyone's amazement and worship. She didn't expect to be stepped on by this woman called Enchantress again and again, humiliated and slapped in the face. Falling from the high clouds to the dust. She has experienced this kind of terrible torture and blow again and again. What high and mighty fairy's demeanor, what Tian-e men's young master's majesty, they have long been used up. Her spirit has long been on the verge of collapse. His only hope was the magnificent quicksand, a face that resembled Jun Mayan. From seeing Di Jun, to devouring him. Then, she can get Di Jun's favor, and from then on, she can step on everyone. However, reality once again gives her a hard slap in the face. Di Ming would rather hug Yu Yangchen, the ugly monster, than take another look at her. Why? Why? Isn't she beautiful enough? Isn't her status higher than that ugly monster? She finally got rid of Jun Mayan, that bitch. Why does Yu Yangchen come out? It would be good if there were no such bitches. Di Jun's eyes would fall on her, and he would be infatuated with her. Yes, as long as there is no Yu Yangchen, Di Jun will definitely like her. Ling Qingwan's eyes burst out with twisted and ferocious hatred, and she madly rushes towards Mayan. The soul-binding dagger in her hand emits an eerie green light. Seeing her rushing over, Mayan sneers and is about to take out the 7 absolute swords. However, the next moment, her whole body has been tightly embraced into a familiar embrace. How can I trouble madam with this matter? Ben Jun will do it. As soon as the voice falls, Mayan hears Ling Qingwan scream. Ling Qingwan was sent flying backwards and crashed into a desk. She only had a few broken ribs before. But this time, she almost can't even stand up. She suddenly spits out several mouthfuls of blood. Her face and body were also covered with overturned dishes and wine. Her originally stunning appearance instantly became embarrassing and laughable. Ling Qingwan's body keeps twitching, and her ears are buzzing. She didn't believe it. She didn't believe that with such a beautiful face, the emperor would still treat her like this. Body, yes. She wanted to display her beautiful body in front of the emperor. The emperor would definitely be head over heels for her. Just as she was about to get up, she suddenly heard a clear and melodious voice of a youth above her. I've finally found an opportunity. Immortal Fairy Qingwan, you wouldn't have forgotten the bet you made with Great God Yi before the medicinal pill competition, right? The loser will have to use the sky-eroding water to disfigure himself. Ling Qingwan raised her head in horror and saw a youth holding a brown bottle looking down at her from above. A cute and obedient smile appeared on his handsome face. The mole under her left eye flickered slightly, exuding a sense of charm. Ling Qingwan opened her mouth wide, wanting to scream, wanting to escape. However, not a single sound came out of her mouth. Her entire body was sore and powerless, unable to move at all. She could only watch as the brown bottle tipped over slightly. The colorless, odorless liquid flowed out and splashed onto her face. Ah 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 ah. The smell of burnt flesh, accompanied by severe pain, made Ling Qingwan let out a heart-wrenching scream. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.